Hey everyone, welcome back to the Magnanimous Collective. I'm your host, Sean Kubota. Let's start it off with a deep breath into the belly. And let it go. Oh yeah, dropped in. Let's do it. I got a really special guest today. Someone who I haven't seen in a very long time. And I'm so thankful to be back with you, brother. To be in communion with you, to be able to have this really amazing conversation, eternalized, because you have so many gifts to give. I'm super, super, super excited to keep diving in because, like, we had to turn the cameras on because it was getting really good. It was getting really good. But I have none other than my brother, Hugo Chacon, a proud father, a proud generational breaker, you know.
Cycle breaker, man.
Cycle breaker,
yes,
man.
Sir.
We can say more and we'll leave it at that. We'll keep it just really concrete as to what your mission and intentions are right now. Born and raised in LA, same as me, but your LA was probably a little different than mine.
It was.
You know, I was sheltered, I'll admit that. Hugo, like, we know each other from men's work. So big ups to Sacred Sons for connecting us.
Yes,
and
sir.
yet we've both kind of been making our own path since then. And I've been missing you. And you've always been not only so ferocious and fearless and having, you know, fuerte, like just the strength of bringing it forth in such a loving way. And then also just being right there, similar to Kale. I always hold you in regard to Kale of like being able to like have your heart online and crumble and break and show men what the fuck it looks like to really be a man, to really be a warrior. It's not just to be hard all the time. It's to really be able to have that grief online, because that allows for us to stay grounded in humility, right? And in gratitude. And so for one, I just want to say like massive respect to you in that regard. And, you know, people going to see this dude like, whoa, this dude's got all these tats and everything like that. Besides dancing and laughing, most of the time we crying as well when we've been together. So with that being said, thank you for coming on, bro. It means a lot.
Well, it's great to be here, man, and so beautiful to see what you've created, man. I mean, you know, from a vision to actual reality, it's amazing, bro.
Thanks, brother.
So thank you for doing this.
And the fact that it has created and cultivated the space where you get to be here and we get to like talk like this, I'm blessed. It's such a fucking blessing.
It's delicious, bro.
Bro, it's so good. It's so good. It's so good.
It's so good.
All right, so to start it off, because you have lots of stories that have, you know, it's like, how do you make a blank? Like, how do you make an Hugo? You've had so many stories where you've had what society would dictate as an opportunity for you to just continue the story and trajectory of the victim, to create the misery story and be like, oh, because this happened, therefore I require sympathy and pity, and I'm just going to choose this pathway. You've said no, and you've continuously said no, and it's built you into this brother that I really, really admire and respect, and that I want to be around. And so for those who don't know, like, tell us about some of those stories and those touch points, those pivotal moments in your life that have really allowed for you to grow into who you are.
Oh my God, brother. Wow.
If you'd be willing.
Yeah, of course, man. It all changed for me when my daughter was born, bro. She did something to my heart, man. Like, she threw me into this loop of like I wanted to love her differently than I was loved, but I just didn't know how, bro. And it required a deep dive into a lot of things that happened in my childhood, man. I'm 47 years old, bro, and I'm still working with things that happened to me when I was fucking 6, 7,
That's
8,
real.
you know, and especially with parenting and being a father. I have 3 kids. My daughter's 16. My son is 12 and 14. And there's this desire to want to love them differently than I was. And I think that's what became my calling. Cause like, what do I need to do and where do I need to go to move what I need to move? I knew I had to do something. I just didn't know what.
Yeah.
And then in 2018, I found Preston Smiles, bro. I was in my barber's chair and he was talking, and something about seeing a brother speaking the way he was expressing his heart, and the way he was just, it just moved me. And he just happened to have a experience coming up a couple of weeks that I signed up for. And that was the first time I was introduced to ecstatic dance. I didn't know what the hell that was.
Hey,
somatic
EDLA.
release.
Yeah.
Somatic release, breath work. and just all these different modalities to express what was present. Because I didn't know how to do it, bro. All I could tell you is when I was 6, I was sexually abused. And that did something to me, man. It created this feeling of brokenness, not good enough. And this feeling of like, I always felt dirty, bro. And when my kids were born, that feeling came in 100%.
Damn.
To the point where I didn't want to bathe them. I didn't want to touch them.
Oh, shit.
I didn't want to be close to them.
Oh, man.
Because I was afraid I was going to hurt them the way I was hurt. And that feeling was what led me into these rooms with these men that were just modeling back to me the possibility of, here's a man that worked through everything, and like here he is, like, you know, it's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. And the road to being able to be here with you, sitting here, and to be in a place of like, I'm in this place of like, I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or else I'll be doing something else. And I'm doing the way I'm supposed to be doing it, or else I would be doing a different way. So I'm in this place of like, I'm present, and I'm just like, it is what it is. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah, it is.
And I have committed myself, and this I knew early on in my journey, bro. Like, there were certain things in my generational line that were going to end with me, man. I just knew that.
Oh.
I just knew that. What am I beating my kids, bro? Like, that was not going to happen with me.
Yeah.
Like, I was not going to put hands on my kids because I know what it did to me, man, to have my father. You know, one thing was being sexually abused by somebody else, right?
Right.
That happened to me when I was 6. But then from 7 to 13, my dad and I went at it hard, bro. Like because I believe that we sign up for certain things before we come into this earth plane.
Soul contracts.
Soul contracts, man. And he and I agreed that we were going to do this thing. And
it's a wild thing, bro.
And he did it 100%.
Shit.
He did it 100%.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
And I thank him for that. It took a while to get to this place, but he and I have had some conversations where we have these come to Jesus meetings. It's like, Dad, why did you do that, man? And he's like, I'm sorry. Like, he's apologized to me, man. Because it was just some... the one thing I couldn't understand is how could the person that's supposed to love me the most hurt me the most?
Yeah.
And one thing he used to say to me as a kid, man, and it stays with me, he said, this hurts me more than it hurts you. Like, he would say that to me sometimes after beating me. And I'll be fucking there crying, and, you know. But now that I'm a parent, I understand. Because the level of pain that he had to be in to cross that line with me, I can't even imagine, bro. I can't.
Yeah.
And now, you know, I'm able to go back. And this inner child work that I'm doing now, the last 2 years, it has just been reclaiming that little boy back, man. Because I could tell you, I could go back and tell you in moments that I made agreements with myself. Yeah. That I took on stories that weren't mine. Put it like this, man. So I think the worst part about my relationship with my dad was that I knew when the beatings were happening. They weren't spontaneous. Like, I knew at 4 o'clock when he got home from that bus, at 4:15, my ass was getting beat.
For no reason.
No, I knew it was coming. Either I misbehaved at school,
I see. Got you.
Or something was happening.
Got you, yeah.
Or the house was dirty, but
I
just knew it was coming. I think the anticipation, you know, that anxiety it created, I'm still dealing with that, man.
Right.
It comes in waves, right? Yeah. But I would know when they were happening. So I did this thing, and school and me never agreed, bro. Like, school and me, like, we just didn't get along. And
it's fucking slave school, bro.
You know what I mean?
Factory schools to make dum-dums.
But we just didn't get along. And this was the time when they would send report cards through the mail. Yeah. So in my journey in this inner child work, I've learned to see the genius in my little boy, man, because what he did to make it through those times was incredible. So what I did was I created this little kit. I would intercept the report cards in the mail, right? Nice. I created this little kit. I would go to the library. It was like a 4-hour process, bro. I would photocopy the report card, cut out the F's and the D's.
Yeah.
Paste on new grades. Yeah. Photocopy again so you couldn't see the white outline. But in that process, I wouldn't give myself B's and A's because it wasn't believable.
Right.
I would give myself C's and D's. And then at that time, they were still giving like unsatisfactory, satisfactory, excellent.
Right. Yeah. Same.
I would get U's and I would put them as S's just to make the report card believable.
Yeah.
I would do that 3 times a year to avoid the beatings.
Smart.
And all I kept doing was but I kept reinforcing in me that you're not smart enough. You can't do it.
Yeah.
Not even when you cheat, you can't give yourself like a good grade because then they're not going to believe it's you.
Right.
So at that point, I made that agreement like, oh, I'm not smart enough. I'm not going to, I'm not going to, I have to make it believable. They're not going to believe it.
Yeah.
So I took that on. Then later on, there was another moment with him where I was just so tired. It would hurt so bad, man. Like, because, like he would like just lean into me and he would leave, like he would have those belts like from Mexico with like little like fucking scenes of cows and shit.
Yeah.
And he would leave, like he would hit me so hard, he would leave
imprints there.
the imprints
Oh, shit.
of the cows and all that shit on my legs. So for days, bro, for days. And I was just tired of it. And so one day I'm like, I'm not going to do this anymore. So I put on 2 pairs of pants, 2 shoes, 2 socks, 2 underwear, 2 shirts. That's all I knew what to do. I was scared. I just didn't want to feel it. Sure enough, he got home before 4 o'clock. I think he had a call from school. Something happened. Calls me in the room, grabs the belt, just lays into me.
Yeah.
But I don't feel it because I got 2 pairs of pants on. But I forgot to cry. I forgot to cry, bro. And he sits back and he checks, and I have the 2 pants on. And he's like, go next door and get naked and then come back.
Oh, shit.
And I walked next door in my room and I'm getting naked. And I could hear him. He's coffee and I could hear a little cup clanking as he's drinking his coffee, bro. It took me forever to get undressed. I came back just in my underwear. And he looked at me. I looked at him. He just grabbed me, didn't say anything, laid into me 3 or 4 times with the belt in my bare skin, bro. And that's when I checked out of my body. I half checked out when the sexual abuse happened because it was just too much for me, and I checked out. And the way it happened was so... Like that, when the sexual abuse happened, that's when life lost its magic for me because that guy actually is like, hey, you want to see some magic? And he called me over and, all that stuff. So that's when, like, life lost its, like, magic. After that, imagination left. Like, I was gone, bro.
Damn.
And then after that that experience with my dad when he asked me to get naked, like, I left.
Man.
And then here came all the compulsive behaviors, the eating, the overeating, At that time, I discovered masturbation. And so, like, I would get beat, and then I would go to my room and masturbate just to feel good, to feel right. But then that connected masturbation to a next. So that's a whole different road to walk, man.
Yeah.
Which led into porn, which led into a whole different things that I've had to deal with.
Right.
But, yeah, and the process has been going back to those spaces and seeing the genius of my child, of my inner boy that was trying to just make it through.
Make it through, bro.
Make it through another day.
Yeah.
And then when I hit 13, I got bigger than my dad, and that's when the beating stopped.
Oh. I
got bigger than him, and I put on a lot of weight, so he couldn't dominate me anymore. I think he tried once. The last time that we had that type of interaction was when me and my brother were fighting, and he went outside and grabbed a broomstick and just fucking wailed on us both. But we didn't even cry. I was so checked out at that point, bro. I was like, okay.
Yeah. You can't hurt me more than I'm hurting
You can't hurt me
inside.
more than you already have, bro. Like, I'm numb.
Yeah.
I'm literally numb right now. Like, go ahead. And that was the point where his relationship and mine just broke. 13, he stopped hitting me. 16, he tried to come back and had one of those moments of like, son, I'm like, I remember yesterday we're sitting on the couch, like, how you doing, buddy? Everything good? And I looked at him. I'm like, man, we haven't spoken in 16 years. We're not going to start now, homie. Leave me alone. I said that when I was 16.
Damn.
Then he left me alone. From that day on, he let me be. I mean, to the extreme, right? He didn't help me through school. He didn't do anything. At 18, I had to get a job and I had to do everything on my own, but he left me alone.
Oh, man. Damn. Thank you for sharing. I've talked about this with some guests where it's impossible to compare people's stories because you can't quantify the amount of pain and suffering that they choose to feel, regardless of what the circumstances may be. And so I can say that my circumstances were not as severe, and yet in some ways they may have been. But in that same sentiment, I can fully relate to what you're saying, given that my whole story has been me choosing to heal this wounding with my father.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this right before this. And what's come up for me as I'm choosing to heal it and choose to see him in a light that does not victimize myself, and that not necessarily glorifies what he did, but find gratitude in it.
Yeah, man.
And choose to not keep feeling this resentment towards him and about it. Another thing that comes up for me in that is, the way my dad only laid hands on me a couple times, but the amount of emotional and mental abuse that he caused to my mom and my dad, or my brother and me, was just like, it was just nonstop. And I felt like I was just trying to get through as well. And it was so weird because he was so loving and so generous. And in the limelight of everyone else, it was like fucking great dude. And then all of the stuff would come home, and then it was completely different. And, be locked in his office, and then I'd have to apologize for him fucking going insane on me when it wasn't it was like, what the fuck? The whole family would get mad at him. And he'd get mad at me that they got mad at him for acting out of line, right? In either case, what I've learned growing up is that the ways that I am were the ways that he was. And so what's interesting about your father getting so upset at you and choosing to cross that boundary, and how at a core level instilling boundaries is love, because we want to help our offspring and our loved ones have more of a positive and safe correlation with reality. Like, hey, know where the limits are, know how to be good so you don't die. Like at the end of the day, it's like you learn boundaries so that you don't die, whether that's to learn how to find food, whether that's to learn how to find shelter, learn how to communicate within society, all of that shit. It's all about like, hey, stay safe, don't die, right? And how is it in the space of our fathers that it was like, don't be like me. God, you're being like me, I'm gonna fucking beat it out of you. Yeah. Stop being like me. Yeah. What do I got to do to make you not be like me? Because the amount of pain I'm feeling right now is so fucked up, so much to bear, that to have me think that my fucking son is going to go through the same shit, I can't deal with that. So I'm going to do whatever the fuck I got to do. Yeah. And that shit blows my mind.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for allowing for this to come forth, because it's so alive for me right now, as I told you before we got on this, as I'm rewriting my book and starting to write my story in the book and give more personal context to it, more legitimacy of like, why the fuck should you trust me? I can't be vague with my story if I want to try to have impact, because who we are, like the individuals who now get to hear your story, now have such a richness of your character. And now they're able to tap into the heart of Hugo. Now they're able to actually hear and receive the things. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I've been like, man, I don't want to slander my family. Comes first for me. I don't want to slander my family. My dad had an aneurysm and stroke about 7 years ago. Since then, our family has a good dynamic and relationship. Before that, every birthday, every vacation, every fucking thing was just like tiptoes, eggshells, like, fuck, he's gonna, Yeah. So, in my I was disowned in my 20s. There's all sorts of stuff that happened. So point being, like, that's been a journey for me too, because it's like, how do I walk this line of honoring my ancestors and honoring my legacy going forward by having impact in this world to, instill change and hope and love and goodness and bring forth a new way of being, while also honoring my family that's still here right now. Yeah. So thank you for bringing that forth.
Yeah, as you were saying that, the part that comes through that was a huge reframe for me, man, is like going back into these situations and looking at them as initiations, man.
Rites of passage, yeah.
I was initiated by my dad. Like whatever soul contract I made coming into this experience, like the level of remembrance I wanted to have this lifetime is equivalent to the level of trauma that I experienced as a kid. Like, as painful as it was, those were waking up points to this other side of where I am with my kids now, where I can love them and be with them.
Yeah.
And sit down with them. As a matter of fact, we were talking about this like maybe a month ago. I sat down with all 3 of them because I'll give you a real life experience about this whole in real time checking, right?
Right.
So my boys, they ride their bike to school, and I tell my boys all the time, lock your bikes up, lock your bikes up, lock your bikes up. Uncle and their sons are okay, Dad, okay. Well, for some reason, the way I had set it up was like I gave only one lock to my older boy, and he was responsible for making sure my younger son was locking up his bike, right?
Yeah.
That alone, why am I giving him that responsibility, right? That's not for him to look after, like.
Right. Yeah.
But in my mind, that made sense at the time. Long story short, 2 weeks later, I get a phone call. Dad, they took my bike. I'm like, did you lock it up? He's like, no, I didn't lock it up.
Oh.
And so here I am, right?
Right.
I'm between, I don't want to react. I want to be responsive, not reactive, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, get home as quick as you can. But as they're coming home, I'm getting all these feelings. I'm like, I fucking told them not to lock up their bike. I told them. So they walk in and they sit down. And I go straight into, I told you to lock your bikes. Since you didn't lock your bike was stolen. And you were responsible for making sure his bike was locked up.
Yeah.
So now, as a punishment, you have to walk to school 2 weeks. Both of you have to walk to school 2 weeks because the bike was stolen.
Yeah.
That was my response. Because in my mind, the fact that I didn't hit him or I didn't yell at or whatever was good enough, right? I did enough. But something wasn't sitting right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, that doesn't, how is walking, like that doesn't fit. Like something wasn't fitting right. But that's all I knew at that time.
Right.
This was a month ago, bro. So, and then we go to the movies and then something happens with my daughter and she's upset about something and, we come home and it threw the whole family. And well, anyways, this whole thing was percolating in me and finally I had to sit them down. I sat them down and they're old enough to understand. I sat them down. I was like, guys, like, I addressed my 2 boys. I'm like, first of all, Eddie, like, I didn't even acknowledge the fact your bike was stolen.
Yeah.
I didn't see how you were doing, how that felt.
Yeah.
How horrible it must have been to walk out and not see your bike anymore.
Yeah.
Like, none of that. I didn't take the time to do that.
Yeah.
And then Joaquin, like, you're not responsible for your brother. Like, I should have got you 2. Like, in my mind, like, it is like real time. Like, I should have got 2 locks. You're responsible for you. And then my daughter, she was having some difficulties. And at the end of it, I was like, guys, like, I really just don't know what I'm doing. All of this is trial and error for me. Because I know not what to do because of what was done to me.
Yeah.
But the part of the equation I was missing was that creating new part. Like, we get to create new ways together.
Right. Yeah.
And this is one of those ways where I can come to you and be like, I don't know. As a father, I don't know everything.
Bro, you just illuminated me to something really wild in this. Is that in the space of a loving home, maybe some kids already are just going to be super careful just by nature, by their personality. But I can say for myself, I was in such a shelter. Like, my dad wouldn't even let me play outside. I lived in a nice neighborhood. I grew up in Chevy Hills. He wouldn't let me play outside in the front yard because he was afraid I would get kidnapped. He grew up during the Rodney King riots. Like, my dad is like all about self-defense and all this shit. You know what I'm saying? And so I was sheltered. And in such, he'd always warn me about this and that and try to make me freaked out about the world and stuff like that. And certain things I was like, that's not what I'm thinking. So I would test it myself. So throughout my life, I've gotten, whether it's parking tickets, getting my bike stolen, doing this and that, putting myself in just really fucked up situations to then have more of a real life understanding, like viscerally, of, oh shit, yeah, there are bad people in the world. Yeah. Oh shit, bad stuff does happen. And so how interesting of a paradox is it that when you try to keep your kids in a very loving home, that, like you were saying, like, you didn't ask him how he felt. Like, a thing that comes up for me is like, how did it feel to recognize that there really are bad people out in the world? And calling them bad, good or bad. How does it feel that there are people who will go to lengths to provide for their family to the point where they steal from a kid like yourself?
Yeah.
Right? Which is more the truth of the matter. And so it's interesting how there's a lesson for growth there, instead of being like, hey, don't be doing that, blah, blah, blah. This is going to happen. I pay for that bike, da, 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 da. Where it's like, okay, so now do you see that they're like, what I'm saying is because this does exist, even though it doesn't happen here, this is the safe space, right? We're going to try to keep this as safe and loving as possible. But out there, it's a different story. There's everything.
Yeah.
So, wow, that was illuminating for me, because I've been wondering about why I chose to do that. You know, like I know for a fact that it was for me to become more relatable to society. I grew up in LA, you know, like, yeah, I went to chartered schools where like I grew up with kids from South Central and all over East Los, everything like that. Those were my friends. That's what so for me to have relation to them, I was like, okay, let's get into this. Let's get into drugs. Let's do let's do steal some shit, whatever the fuck it is, right?
Yeah.
Because that wasn't what I experienced. And so it's interesting for your children to experience that and be like, it's not a big deal, right? Like, our home is safe. I got a dope-ass, strong-ass dad. Like, we're protected.
Yeah.
You know?
That's it, man.
Yeah.
It's like having those being willing to have those larger conversations. But in order to have those larger conversations, like, I have to be willing to go into the muck, man, my own muck.
Yeah.
You'll be willing to sit in it and be okay with not being okay at times, man. And being able to say, I don't know, and I need help, and reaching out to so-and-so and doing this and that. Like, that's real life stuff, man. Like, it takes, every day is like a different formula with the kids, because like they're changing so quick. Like, my daughter's already driving, bro.
Wow. Yeah, 16.
My son is about to enter I'm about to have 2 in high school, 1 in middle school. I never saw myself playing this role, bro.
Right, because you're having a baby.
Yeah,
it's different
man.
than having teenagers.
Yeah,
That's
talk
the
to
thing.
me
It's
at
the real.
30s like I didn't see this coming.
Right. Yeah.
But man, what a privilege it is to be able to show up for them in this way, because like, in doing so, man, and this I never thought was going to be possible. This was, for me, one of the hardest things I thought I was ever going to ever do. For the first time, to be able to look in the mirror and believe that I love myself, bro. And I love myself enough to hurt. I love myself enough to feel the things at a visceral level, because I know that's the only way.
Yeah. And that's warrior shit right there.
Bro.
Truly. The stuff that no one sees.
I'll share this one with you, man. You know, I hit my 40s, things change, bro. And I was going through a lot of emotional things. And I went through an experience of ED, man. In my 40s. I was just losing my erections left and right. So embarrassing, bro. And so I'm like, for first thing, I would avoid my wife. We wouldn't talk about it. Like, I went into this fear mode, right? Jumped on the testosterone for a bit. Didn't like it. It was messing with my mind too much. Like, I already have some dark thoughts. It made them even darker. It was scary. Like, I got scared. I'm like, came off the testosterone. And I was talking to my therapist, and he's like, Hugo, the only way through it is through this, man. Like, you're not going to be able to bypass this one, man. So I had to sit my wife down, bro, and look at her in the eyes and be like, look, hon, like, this is where I'm at. Like, this is what I'm working through. And if I go soft on you while we're having intercourse, it's not you.
Yeah.
Like, that's how real it gets, man. Like, when I'm willing to show up in that way.
Yeah.
And like, and you know, she understands, man. Look, man, Tori, man, she knows the worst of me, and she stuck it out with me, man. Like, she knows, like, the darkest of darkest. You know? Yeah. And I remember one time she goes, I'm worried that if I leave you home, I'm not going to find you alive. Like, she literally said that to me. Because that's how dark things were getting for me, you know? And I thank her for that, because that kind of jolted me into like this, okay, then all I can do is be honest. Like, tell her what's up. We've been at it for 17 years, man, her and I. We've been through it, and it's like this last one, when I went through this thing, I had to be able to, like, in the moment, be like, damn, babe, like, fuck, something's going on, and like, and have those conversations while we're in the middle of being intimate, to stop and be like, oh man, like, I just went soft because of this and that. Like, this was in my mind, this was in my head.
It's always the head.
It's always the head. It's always the head. Because as soon as this got right, everything lined back up. Yeah. Boom, we're back at it, right? Yeah. You know, started doing well again. But it's like, was nobody. That's when I learned, like, I gotta be willing to go through these and have these difficult conversations. With myself, and then, if needed, with the persons who I'm intimately involved with. Yeah. And at a level, like, you know, obviously we're living this human experience, right? And a level, like, having this human experience allows for these interesting
things that you don't expect to happen that allow for our own like spiritual growth.
Bro.
Like, because at the end of the day, you're this eternal spirit soul. Like, none of this stuff actually is attached in any way,
No.
and yet it allows for the opportunity to be vulnerable and to be like. Not only is it the opportunity for you to be vulnerable, it's the opportunity to open yourself up to even deeper love and care.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Man.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think that's where it landed for me. Like,
Yeah.
for me to love myself enough to be able to say this to her,
Yeah.
you know, and to be able to move through this with her.
Yeah. And for her to love you and receive
my
you,
God, dude, like,
support you.
believe me, man, I tried to,
Bro,
like,
Yeah.
like, I pushed her away so many times, bro.
Isn't it funny how like when you say you pushed her away so many times, isn't it funny how so many, you can take this scenario and it would be entirely different thing, but so many people push people away and create these narratives or these storylines that don't really exist, that are only, that only sprout because someone is not willing to be vulnerable. It's like, oh, I'm embarrassed. I got this or that, or this is happening. Like, it could be literally anything, infinite. And it's like, you push them away. It's like a story as old as time. It's like, push them away because the individual's too afraid to be vulnerable. And then it causes pain for that other person. And then maybe some other drama happens. When in reality, it's just like, I'm afraid that you're not going to love me because of this.
Yeah, man. And that's ingrained young, man. Like, I pushed my parents, I pushed my dad. It didn't get safe for me until I pushed him away. Until I said, you ain't touching me. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And it's like that was ingrained fully. Like, I cut things at the root, man. Like, I wasn't meant, like, if we weren't, like, if things were going to be too painful, I would rather just leave.
Right.
But that wasn't, that all that did was create more to work through.
Yeah.
I'm finding out, that because either pay now, pay later, but you're going to pay.
You gotta pay. And sometimes you have to pay later.
Dude,
sometimes sometimes it doesn't come to fruition.
Right, because at that time you're not ready. Like, I wasn't ready to handle what needed to be handled. And it comes back years later. I'm like, oh damn, like, okay, there it is again. But I have a new approach to it.
Right. And we were talking about him being a grandfather now and how that's different.
Man, like my dad's fucking great, dude. Like, I just saw him a couple of weeks ago, and my bro was like, I saw him we went to Vera Street for lunch, and he's like, hey, I'm like, yeah, he's like, do you know how to charge crystals? I'm like, what, dude? He's like, yeah,
That's amazing.
He's like, I put my crystal, I put this crystal out to charge, and somebody stole it. And I'm like, my dad, I'm like, yeah, like, absolutely. Like, and so we start talking about crystals.
Wow.
But that only became available because he and I have done the work to get through this muck that was created back then.
Yeah.
And for him to be able to be with my kids, because I had a difficult time with them. My wife's like, don't make it about you, make it about the kids. I'm like, you're right.
Yeah.
Let me get the hell out the way so he can have that experience. And they can love, my kids are fortunate enough to have all 4 grandparents alive right now.
Amazing. Yeah.
They get to experience them.
Yeah.
But I have to be willing to get out the way and let go of all that stuff that I held over his head sometimes and be like, no, like, this man got me here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's charging crystals now. Go figure, right?
Yeah.
And this is how beautiful it is. Like, because I'm learning how everything is so connected. 2 weeks prior, I had done a bufo ceremony up in the mountain with my brother Miguel. And so it happens there were some quartz on the ground, and I said, hey, can I take a quartz? He's like, the mountain's saying yes, take it. And I carried that quartz in my car for weeks. Yeah. And when my dad told me it was stolen, I reached up and I grabbed that quartz I took and I gave it to him. It's like, here, Dad. Here, let me gift you this. Like, charge this and put it by your bedside. And it was like this beautiful moment of like, damn, look how far we've come. We didn't have to say anything. Right. We both knew it. Yeah. But 2 grown men, we were like, look how far we come. We're sharing crystals. Yeah. Like, I never saw that one coming, bro.
And how all of that played out in order for you to be able to give something and him to receive it.
Absolutely.
Like, just those little acts of love is like, yeah, man, prayers up to, let's just take a deep breath into that.
To our pops, dog.
Oh. Yeah, man. I mean, we only have now, and something that I have to keep reminding myself is like, as I'm on this journey to make the life that I want for, the family that I want to create, that time doesn't stop for me or anyone, and to just really be present with my family, which is also why I'm here in LA too, because I'm here, I'm right next to family. I'm right here. Man. And how much more can I show up for them, you know? And how much more can I like really be able to gift them and have them receive stuff while they're here? Because yeah, we're like sometimes, most of the time I'd say, stuff feels like, yeah, life's chill. Oh, I got errands to do. I got this to do. The narrative of like life in humanity, especially in the United States, you know, and where we at, it's like, oh yeah, we got stuff to do. How we doing this, blah, blah. Very casual. And at the same time, the reality is, if you knew how long someone had, you'd act different.
Yeah, man.
You know?
Yeah. That's true.
If that was online
That's
all
real.
the time, you know, how richly would we hug? How will we just watch movies, or would we talk? Would we ask about stories, about what happened when they were growing up, their first love, all these things where it's just like, how much do we create the misery story of regret because we choose to live in the fake land of not wanting to be attached to grief?
Oh,
Right?
man.
That's one of the things I've been exploring on this pod and just in general, is that like, and that's something that you taught me, and that's something that colleagues taught me, and I've learned in Sacred Sons, but especially from brothers like you, is that like, if we don't have, and I'll own 100%, because sometimes I got to watch a Pixar movie or something like that in order to get me to cry.
Yeah.
But so I was talking about it with Yahya, that because you know he's Iranian, Persian, and Middle Eastern music, Native American music, a lot of like ancient Japanese music, a lot of indigenous ancient music isn't like it's not happy. It's very deep, meaningful, somewhat sorrowful, somewhat morose in like the way that it sounds, right? It almost sounds like a heart longing and sobbing and like, you know? And yes, our past has had tragedy and war and all these things and blah, 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 but back in those days, like, grief was not something you could like avoid or run away from or turn a blind eye to. People were dying all the time. There was sickness all the time. Like, things weren't as luxurious as they are now. And so people were not as distant from the reality of, hey, this is what we got. And so it's almost like this next evolution of consciousness in humanity is to purposefully, intentionally curate having grief online to a certain extent, not like we're sobbing all the time, but to the point where it humbles us and it brings us to the reality of like, hey, this is what we got. How can I really, like, what does being present mean? I feel like being present really means to like be somewhat attached to the grief in the moment and recognize that, hey, this is finite. Like, I'm really going to appreciate this right now because I know that this is what we got. And in that humility, I can have full gratitude. Not like, oh, I'm so grateful I got to get this nice, healthy smoothie, or, oh, I'm so grateful this. And it's like, no, I'm grateful just to be able to connect with you right now because I could die tomorrow. You could die tomorrow. Thank God we're here right now talking about something meaningful, eternalizing this out into the world so that, hey, at least we're doing our best and doing something, right? That feels great to me. So,
yeah, brother. And if you know, what I find is if I'm quiet enough, the universe will speak to me in different ways. And what you're speaking to, the grief part, man, like probably a month ago, I was like going through this really hard time connecting with my loved ones, for even my like kids, my wife, like, you know, just the connection. It's one thing to be there, but to feel that connected, that synergy in the family, that stuff. Yeah. I was so deep into my own stuff. I didn't see a way out, man. And my wife and I were going through it. And in 2020, I discovered running. I started running.
I remember.
Out in the hills,
you lost a lot of weight, bro.
Yeah, brother. Oh,
tell us about that.
It's like 90 pounds in 4 years, bro.
That's wild.
But it's been a whole reframe about body, you know, like body image and just seeing the whole health trajectory as in a different light rather than being like, I have to lose weight. Yeah. It's more like, no, like, yes, I do, but it's for different reasons. Like, I want to be here longer for my kids. I want to, like you said, like
devotion.
The devotion to myself.
Something more than you.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a higher calling that's driving this physical transformation that I'm feeling, you know. And but I started running, and before I go up, I run in the hills, and before I go up, I would usually, because I talk to trees, I talk to animals, like I communicate. I would pray with these trees and ask for their permission to go up, because that's something that my brother Miguel taught me. Anytime we go into sacred space, we bow, we give tobacco to the trees. So I started putting those little practices into my life. And 2020, like these 2 trees, we were just bros. We, before I would run, I would go up, pray, and if I was having a hard time, I would talk to them.
Yeah.
Fast forward to like a month ago where I'm having this trouble connecting. The huge eucalyptus tree, man, beautiful. Like she was it for me, man. Like we would hug. I can't tell you how many times. I saw her one day, and the next day they had cut her down.
Damn.
I went to pray, and I could smell it, and I could smell her in the air. That fresh cut of wood, that almost sour. I could smell it now. I could smell it. And I'm like, there's something different. And I approached, and they had cut her down, bro. And I felt this sense of grief that I had felt for another human being. And I put plenty of, pets down, and but not to this level. It was 4 years that we had been praying together. And I asked myself that one question.
Because like an elder.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she would talk to me and she would guide me. But I asked that one question that you asked. If I'd known that was the last time I would have prayed with her, would I have said something different? And the answer was yes. I had taken her for granted at some level. And that just propelled me into this energy with my family and my wife of like, bro, this could be it.
Yeah.
This morning that we say goodbye could be it. Yeah. This morning that I say have a good day at school could be the last time.
Yeah.
Have a good day here.
Yeah.
This last moment I share with my dad, that could be it.
Yeah. And some people will call you crazy for saying that.
That's cool.
No, but they're crazy.
That's cool, bro.
They being crazy, thinking that they can know what's going to happen. Because they don't.
I don't.
Yeah, we don't. None of us do.
I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow, bro.
No. Even an hour from now.
We don't know.
We don't know.
But I think that's the beauty of this journey, man.
It is. Yeah.
And that's what I'm finding comfort in. It's like, at the end of the day, like I land in this place of like, at the end of the day, I am 100% responsible for everything I experience. Point blank, period.
Yep.
Down to this cup of water, down to this wall.
And that's your choice to own that.
Somehow in me, I have said yes to all this. To this conversation, to the drive over here.
No matter how far you can go back, if you have to go back, you can find a place where it's like, I chose to do this, which led me to this.
Absolutely.
Always. Yeah.
So I took that paintbrush and I took that color and I went back and I colored everything with that from my past experience. That means at 6, bro, I chose to have that experience with that gentleman and be sexually abused because at some soul level, that was for my highest good.
Yeah.
Sounds fucking crazy, but I know it. I know I chose this interaction with my dad because I had to remember to fucking remember now. Yeah. And the only way to remember was to go through that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
And now I'm here with my kids. Here I'm with you, 47. Talk about my dad. And I think, what are they going to say about me when they're 47, bro? Huh?
Yeah.
What are they going to say about me, bro?
Yeah.
Did I add on to their luggage that they come with that they're going to work through?
Yeah.
Did I add on to their trauma they're going to have to let go? Or did I do as much as possible to create such a safe container for them that they can discover who they are?
Yeah.
Huh? What are they going to say? Yeah, but that's what keeps me going, man. And I'm gonna go as far as I can. I'm gonna take it as far as I can. I'm gonna do what my granddad couldn't do. I'm gonna do what my dad couldn't do. I'm gonna do it. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'll fucking do it. I'm committed to it.
Yeah.
And it just so happens like when I'm going through something, like a ceremony will show up or a medicine will find me. Like it's time to go sit with this medicine. It's time to go do that. And I'll move the energy, come back. My kids know I don't hide it from them. Like they know when I'm going to ceremony. They know I'm here to have this talk, this conversation. Like they see my process. They see me leave on a Friday, come back on a Monday, a whole different person. Like they don't, you know what I mean? They're like, who is this man?
Yeah. That's beautiful.
It's like, who is this man? Because you know what the toughest thing about parenting for me has been, bro? The hardest thing that I've had to adjust to, the hardest thing that I've had to embody is that my fucking kids like me, bro. That they want to spend time with me.
Because you didn't experience that.
No, I didn't like my dad. I was scared of him. I feared him.
Yeah.
But I avoided him.
Right.
And my kids don't, man. Like, they want to do things with me.
I can't blame them.
Sometimes I don't know how. You know, and I'm like the other day, I got to coach my son in basketball. My dad never coached me. His dad never coached him.
Yeah.
And I got to coach him.
Yeah.
That creates a new paradigm for them.
Agreed.
That moving forward, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
They see me fucking working. They see me grinding. Like, they know, like, they see these potentials for them.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's where it ends for me and begins. Like, what am I doing so that they can be who they need to be, and I could just hold the high watch for them, bro.
Yeah.
Just like some of the men in Sacred Sons held the high watch for me when I first came through.
Oh.
Michael Gay, homie. Michael Gay.
Hey.
That brother walked me through my first somatic release. Never the same. And the one thing he told me as I was moving through is like, you can't do it all at once, Hugo. That stuck in my head. He says, they can't do it all at once. It's going to be in layers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Adam Jackson, when I first accessed my anger in Spanish, because that's a whole different level, bro.
It is, bro. Oh, it got real juicy once that started happening.
Listen, bro. When I started processing my trauma in Spanish,
Yeah.
that took it to a whole, because I could viscerally feel the belt on my legs as I was moving through that.
Yeah.
Adam Jackson held me through that fucking point of anger that I could come the other side. Literally restrained me.
Yeah.
Remember the first time I met him when I got into the physical pillar. I asked him to body slam me as hard as he could because I wanted to feel my body. I wanted to feel my body again, and he did.
Yeah. Shout out Ajax.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Love that, brother.
Yeah.
And the most powerful thing I got out of that whole physical pillar the first time, man, I went through it, because I had avoided violence all my life, because that's all I seen, experienced as a kid. So when they told me put on gloves or whatever, I was like, what? Yeah. This is my first time. And man, okay. Can we go? Can we go to that first time, bro?
Of course.
Let's show up to Sacred Sons, man. The first time. For some reason, my soul knew I had to be there. Let's show up. There's 150 men. All men, all dudes. I walk in there. I'm like, what the fuck, right? All shades and colors.
Yeah.
And physically, like, I wanted to leave. But my soul's like, nah, man, you gotta stay. This is something. I stayed. At first I was like, seeing all these dudes hug, laughing together. Like, what the hell is this, right? I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
Because growing up, I was told, man, you can't trust nobody.
Yeah.
You can't trust somebody that looks different than you. But then, like, I remember I shared once, like, but then all the shit that happened to me was at the hands of men that looked like me. So who the fuck can I trust?
Right.
And here I am in this sea of men.
Yeah.
150 dudes like hugging and doing all this stuff. And then getting into that physical pillar, man. I remember the most powerful component of that piece was that while I'm going at it, the guy I was going with, I remember I asked him to stop, and he fucking stopped. You know how many times I asked my dad to stop and he wouldn't stop?
Of course.
So to actually be able to say stop and have that other man stop.
Yeah.
Things like that, man.
It's profound.
Little things that
just
changed.
Yeah.
Just changed my life, man. And it's like, those are the things like I'm grateful for, man. Like, without these experiences, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing with my kids.
Same. Yeah. I mean, even though I did judo all my life and I'm a fighter and stuff, being in Sacred Sons and doing the physical pillar with them completely healed me as well.
Yeah.
Like in the space of like actually like taking punches to the face and like finding resiliency there and being like, because I always knew I was a good striker, but I was always afraid of like, how resilient am I? And then growing up in LA, I would toss dudes, or I'd pin them, or I'd like throw them, and that'd be the end of it, or I'd charge them, Other than that, like, I never really got into big fights because like dudes would potentially stab me or, bring a gun. Like, it was always like growing up in LA was not a safe space to scrap.
Yeah.
You go body with your friends, but scrapping, like there was that's a whole nother story. Point being, like, it wasn't safe like it was back in my dad's day, right? And so there was always that part like, oh shit, how will I hold up? You know what I mean? And I feel like for a lot of the dudes who come to the Suns, like, that's why after I got that healing from it for myself, I was like, okay, cool, let's do this for the dudes. A lot of them are like, you know, going with me, not even trying to connect. So I stop them and be like, connect.
Yeah.
And they get them to literally like punch me in the face like 3, 4, 5 times and be like, okay, cool, you ready now? Because I'm not going to attack you, or I'm not going to try to like dominate you here. That's not what this is about. This is about you learning to come into your own and learning to feel safe and learning how to be that warrior and that protector. Because look, not only do I need you to be that for me and for this group of dudes here, because if a bear comes up or something happens, I want to know that you're holding the line here, but I need you to be that for your family and for your community, right? To show up that way. And it's so interesting how disempowered so many men are. Like you were saying, it was initiation for you to have this with your dad. It was an initiation for me to go through this with my father, because we're missing those rites of passage.
Yeah.
We're missing these aspects that allow for the men to come into these spaces of tapping into that warrior, tapping into the self-reliance, the personal responsibility to all these things. And what Uncle Matoska was talking about is that the uncles would be the ones to do it, because the fathers were the fathers. The fathers hold that space. That's like the safe space. Like, I got you, you're my boy. The uncles would take the sons and they would put them through the rites of passage. And sometimes the boys wouldn't make it. And when you think about it, like, it sounds terrible. And when you think about it in the sense of village, it's like, if you're going to rely on people to uphold the village, they have to be strong enough to hold their own. And what I find interesting that I've been experiencing in myself when it comes to this whole new world we've created, which is just full of luxury and comfort and full of just like options to choose to be whatever we want, because we're living in a space where, at least as of now, violence isn't at the back door, or not the front door. You know what I mean? It's not knocking here yet. Once it does, shit will change up real quick. And hopefully it doesn't. But point being, in that space of, one of my favorite quotes is, anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. Because in the space of ultimate freedom, it's just like, oh shit, infinite possibilities. What do I choose? I'm going to choose to identify as this or identify as that and blah, blah, blah. It's like, cool. And at a visceral point, as me, as a heterosexual cis man or whatever the fuck it is, right? How does it affect me to feel and see a man in my community choose to be weak? Why do I have a visceral reaction to whether it's bully him or like make him stronger? Why is that? Why is that we could bastardize and shame men as much as we want. But just as women are naturally inherently nurturing for the most part, men are also naturally rough and tumble, at a healthy level, right? Just like little lion cubs or whatever the fuck it is, right? Point being, why is it that I have this internal subconscious reaction or at least thought and desire in me to be like, hey, bro, fucking get with it, right? And I think that's because there's an innate sense for me and for specific men to be like, hey, if you're going to be around my vicinity and be in my village, I need you to make sure that we're all, keeping our stuff, keeping our six, like being in the space where we're able to protect our loved ones. Because if you're going to be around me, I want to make sure that you're able to protect my family, right? But we ain't even in the same village. But it's so interesting how those inklings of like, how if we actually stand back and observe it from an, objective perspective, like, why do we feel these things? They're ingrained in us for hundreds of, thousands of years. You know what I mean? Yeah, man. Thousands of years. And it's like, it makes sense that is there. Now, how we integrate it and align it and process it so that we can make it fit here, or either reroute it or reframe it so that it works, that's our work to do. And at the same time, to shame ourselves when it is literally the crux of what has kept us living to be at the point where we have this freedom of luxury and choice. There's justified and deserving honor there, right? And so in you choosing to be this father, I also want to say that I honor you in that, everything that you're doing, and also invitation to have some grace for yourself, grace for your father, for my father, our forefathers, in that like there is something there that, yes, let's say they didn't have the rites of passage themselves. Let's say every generation is choosing to do it maybe a little bit better because we're doing a new thing.
Yeah.
You know?
The new way of being, man.
Yeah.
It's just like, remember Jason Mack say once to me, he goes, he said, let the inversion happen. Let the inversion happen. And I sat with that for a while. And like the picture that came forward was like, you know, when you turn an orange inside out and you got the pulp, the juicy part, like the inversion of that. And like, that's the question for me is like, how vulnerable am I willing to walk around this world? Knowing that in some spaces that's seen as weakness.
Yeah.
In some spaces it's not appreciated. So what I've learned is discernment, right? Then I don't need to be in those spaces.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
If I can't show up in a vulnerable way, like you and I are doing here now, like if I can't show up this way and I have to feel like I have to somehow, you know, how do you say, like
shrink or something.
Shrink or mold myself to fit into, then we're not doing much, you know? And that's where the discernment's coming in for me. Because, you know, when I first started this path, like I was like, oh, I'm spiritual. I should love everybody. Like everybody's my friend.
Right, the naivety, bro. Trust
everybody's my friend. Everybody's this and that.
Yeah.
And the more I talk to my teachers and my spiritual guides, they're like, no, like there's this thing called discernment where you can choose to engage or disengage at what level you choose to engage.
Agreed.
It's not all in all the time.
No. Yeah.
And that's something I'm learning. You know, with my kids, it's all in all the time.
Right.
There's no days off.
Right.
There's no like, I'll be a dad tomorrow. No, like it's now.
Yeah.
It's now.
It's happening.
And my wife and I have inverted the whole thing because I stay home. 5 years ago, I stopped working and I stay home with them. And she works. So I get them to their doctor's appointments. I drive them. I cook. I clean. Like I do everything. I do everything. So that 5 year journey of like getting to that place of like, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. Yeah. Without that, but you should be doing this.
Right. Yeah.
Or you should be doing that.
It's a whole new world.
Or you're not working?
Yeah.
How come you're not working?
Yeah.
Because that's not what it takes right now.
Yeah.
You know? Right now, what I feel like it's in alignment with my kids and my boys, especially my boys, is like, no, your feelings are valid and it's your superpower, bros. Like, be vulnerable. Like, tell me what you cry.
Yeah.
And daughter, tell me, feel safe enough to give me feedback. Like she sat me down when she goes, Dad, your tone just throws me off. For my daughter to be able to say that to me, it's just like, it's like a point for me, like I'm on the right track because she feels strong enough in her power to pull me aside and be like, hey, Dad. Yeah. Like your tone. And she didn't do it. It was like, Dad, your tone just sometimes.
Yeah. She didn't do it with like any attitude.
No, it was just like,
she's
give
actually,
me feedback.
Yeah. Because she knows that you're willing to receive it, which exactly means that you're doing something.
And that requires a certain level of softening.
Yeah. What I find interesting is that, you know, you choosing to walk this path of really trying to do the opposite of what your father did, or at least try to do things in a better way, right? What I can say from my father, you know, we both said that like our fathers did the best that they could. My father was a dentist. We went from being poor farmers to landscapers to dentist, right? And my dad's a lot like me, super personal, you know, just like loves talking to people, loves being that guy, loves being liked by people, blah, blah, blah. Being a dentist is fucking hard. Nobody wants to go see you. It's the highest suicide rate occupation in the world. And not only does no one want to see you, but when you work hard to become a doctor of teeth and become a dentist, they teach you like one quick class on business. And then you're supposed to go out and create a new business, run a business, market a business, do payroll, do all. That wasn't his thing. And he was so generous with his work that it ended up, you know, making the business not as profitable as it should be. I'll just say that lightly. There's a lot of stuff there that led to him being stressed and resentful. And he wanted to spoil us and he wanted to give us stuff, but then would, you know, shame us for it and be like, you know, you don't know how lucky you are. You guys don't deserve this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
And then being so stressed out and then being super, you know, tired and without sleep and all these, running himself down to the point where it was like, yeah, no shit, he was the way, you know what I mean? And then blows his brain with an aneurysm, you know, and a stroke. So yes, all the shoulds. We can should on each other all day. Then we're all covered in should. But in your space of where things are, like you said, like I'm doing exactly what I'm meant to be doing. Like who's to say that if Hugo was working this thing and, Tori was at home and stuff like that, you wouldn't be more susceptible. And I think we both would agree there's a very high likelihood that you'd be more susceptible to not being as emotionally regulated as you are now.
Oh, man, yeah. I mean, yeah.
And what good would that do for the kids? What good would that do for Tori? Like all of it.
Well, all of it, man. Well, I did social services for 12 years before I stopped, dedicated to home. And it was burning me out, man. You see something. I did social out here in LA. And, working with families and things, you see some things and certain things. It just takes you to that place of burnout that I wasn't being who I needed to be at home. Right. Just schedule wise. I mean, I was an OC driving to LA every day. I would leave at 4 a.m, come back at 9. Some days I would leave my kids asleep and find them asleep. So I was missing that whole dinner time, between time. Yeah. And life just so happened that things worked out where we could make that switch, and we had to make that switch. But but then that threw me into this whole loop of like losing my identity, man. When you're a social worker for 12 years, you build a certain identity of who you are. Yeah. People know you as a certain person. Right. And you lose that paycheck, you lose the validation. There's nobody saying, "Hey, good job folding the clothes today. Good job vacuuming the house today." There isn't that outside reinforcement, so you have to find it within yourself and know that what you're doing is just as valuable as anything else you could be doing. Yeah. Like my time at home right now is doing something, providing something for them. Yeah. That is just as valuable that if I was working a 9 to 5 right now.
100%.
Which is right now I just happen to be at home. So let me get with it and let me get to a place to where like this is what I'm doing right now. Yeah. Or else I would be doing something else. Yeah. And being okay with that. And just finding value within myself without somebody having to come and say, "Hey, you're doing a good job," or "Hey, you're doing this and that." Yeah. It's like, no, I know. Yeah. I know. Yeah. Yeah. And in that, that you're like, it's almost the perfect, or at least the most optimal situation as you can see it right now for you to be able to not do the thing that or to do the thing that you desperately want to do, which is not be the person that you know that you could be, if not choosing otherwise. Yeah. Right? Exactly. Like, if you were to just be like, you know what, I'm going to run on autopilot, we'd be skipping the potentiality of a generation not having, once again, these cycles. Right. And so I love that you're bringing this up, and I love your situation because it just goes and shows like some people could, in this world where we're at right now, a lot of people are choosing to do stuff that's edgy and blah, 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 just because they want to be edgy and cool and they're insecure and all these things and blah, 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 and things are upside down. To do things in a specific way that is different because it actually makes fucking sense, makes a lot of fucking sense. Like, because if we're being honest, if you're already in the midst of like really having so much deliberate effort towards choosing to do otherwise of what you were taught and really not wanting to keep that going, because it's like, if we go for far enough down the potential storyline, great. Our child, we treat our child this way, blah, blah, the same way we were treated. Then they, fucking self-delete, stuff like that. Like, what was it all for? You know what I mean? Like, would we have chosen to not be prideful? Would we have chosen to maybe be in your position to do all the things? What would we be willing to do differently so that we don't end in these misery stories, truly, Yeah. And I feel like people are so caught up in the rat race. For one, they don't think about this stuff. Two, they're so deep in the rat race and just in the normalcy of society and like holding on to common, narratives, or like, oh, I like this because the rest of society like this. I think this way because the rest of society thinks this way. And I'm so afraid to be alienated. I'm not going to choose anything different. That they're so far devoid of even getting to that space of having that self-awareness. And that's why it's so important that you are choosing to do that. It's so important that people start to see, and for you to put this out there in this way so that people can hear like, oh, there are bros who look the way you do, have done the things you do, have been through the stuff that you've been through, who are parents who are choosing to do things differently because
like it behooves you. It is like, it makes so much sense for you to do that because of everything you've been through. And how fucking rich and amazing of a story is that than just, oh, I go to work and then I fucking beat my kids again because that's what happened to me, and I'm stressed out and blah, blah, blah. I fucking get a heart attack and die, and then they go and repeat the same story. God, lame.
Yeah, it's a potentiality.
It is a potentiality.
If it's
a high probability.
If it's not taken on like as a opportunity for myself, I can speak for myself to see things different. Like one of the things I had to get really good at was like unlearning things, right?
Yeah,
unlearn, reframing. But then what I found myself doing was replacing what I unlearned with something else I learned, and it was just this vicious cycle of like, okay, I'm not doing it this way, then it has to be this way, or not this way. So I was just going from learning to learning in different modalities.
Right.
And I was in ceremony one time. I was sitting with Semperio, and what came through was like, hey, like get good at unlearning, but don't learn anything else. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Learn, like apply as you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't fill that void too
quick. It's kind of like pick your story. Those books where you go, if you want A, go to page.
Or stuff. Yeah.
Like stop replacing something with something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be okay with not knowing.
Yeah.
What's going to happen. Be okay with that.
Sit with the unknown. Yeah.
Sit with the unknown.
Yeah.
And that has, my relationship with spirit was a really fucked up one in the beginning because my whole thing was like, okay, spirit, if you're real, how come you let all these things happen to me? Mm-hmm. I would have these comments like, God, like really?
Yeah.
You tell me this and that, you're real, this and that, really?
Right.
You let all these things happen to me. So I had to rebuild my relationship with spirit, with source.
Yeah.
I had to tap into that. Because without that, without building that relationship, like my foundation wasn't solid, bro. Because like if I can't trust spirit in certain aspects of my life and not trust it in others. Agreed. I can't say, oh, spirit's here, but he wasn't here.
Agreed.
So in going back and doing this inventory of my life, I had to also go back and see the God in every situation. And see spirit in every situation.
Yeah.
And see the angels holding the high watch as I went through what I went with my dad. Seeing the angels hold the high watch as I went through with this guy, what the guy did, what he did.
And maybe they were mourning.
Bro.
Maybe they were grieving.
Bro.
Right?
Through that, I was able to tap in, like how pain, like I tap into something, like how much pain would I have to be in to cross those lines?
Yeah.
And it would have to be pretty bad.
Yeah.
And that introduced grace and self-forgiveness and all that into the equation because that's the oil that keeps me going.
Like you said, your father said, it hurts me more to do this than it hurts you. And now you get it.
Now I get it, man.
Yeah.
Now I get it.
And, that ties into what we were talking about before we started this thing. I was telling you about how everyone has had this notion of the divine parent, whether it's like this dogmatic belief or it's a part of what we were spliced with. There's just this genetic, epigenetic codon or whatever that like people feel this code of unworthiness. They feel like this code of blasphemy, the original sin, or oh, shame, I'm always less than. I have to, it's almost like there's like a big brimmed hat. It's funny that I just made that skit about the conscious coach with the big brimmed hat. It's like you can't see above because there's this thing holding you there. It's like, no, take that hat off, or like come above the water. Get below the water because like your divine parent. If the divine parent is amazing, has created all this, right? Which like we're living in it. Whether you want to call it God, spirit, universe, creator, all these things. As above, so below. And if we are made in God's image, then a parent having such deep love for the child and then having to go through the discernment of allowing for the child to have free will, to learn that they can't protect them from everything, that they can't save them from everything. And that there's a certain level of like, I have to love you enough to be able to instill boundaries, which hurts me because all I want to do is love you and be gushy and make you happy. I have to be willing to instill boundaries, and I also have to be willing to allow for you to suffer and to grow.
Yeah. At the same time.
At the same fucking time.
At the same time.
And that's what and I also want you to be better than me. I want you to be more than me. Yeah. I want you to feel love. That's exactly what a divine parent wants. At the same fucking time.
Yeah.
And in that there's an expectation and a responsibility to be great and to be more because that's all being given to us. And yet we have the free will to choose to fulfill that obligation or to not.
Well, that's the whole thing, man. And like, I had to get away from this thing of feeling like I had to do things. I don't have to I get to do things. I get to go sit in ceremonies. I get to share space with deep brothers. Like I get, like, I don't have to.
No.
You know, I didn't have to go to Peru with Fabian. 8 days in the jungle. Yeah, shout out to my brother Fabian, man. That brother, woof. He introduced me to ancestral work. You know, he's the one that kind of pointed me in that direction. So I'm grateful for him, because without him, like, I wouldn't have that insight. But yeah, man, 8 days in Peru with the brother.
Yeah.
Not knowing what I was going for. I just knew I had to be there. Right? You know, a quick story about that. So I get to Peru, man, and I have this thing with roaches. I had this thing with roaches because growing up, my house, man, like we had roaches everywhere. It was those houses that when you turn on the light, the floors moved, bro.
The small ones?
Yeah, the small ones. The floors moved. They were in our utensils. They were in our food. Like, it was so bad. They would get in my ears and my mouth. Like, it was that bad. Like, me and roaches and rats. Like, we would get those big sewer rats.
Oh,
like,
shit.
That's what we grew up with, man.
Yeah.
And so I had this phobia with roaches. So we get to Peru and we get into the jungle, man. And the first night in my little thing I'm staying at, I look inside, bro. And inside that thing, there's every roach of every size and every color in my little hut that I'm staying in, bro.
Oh, shit.
As big as my hand, as small as like this. They're everywhere on the walls. And I'm like freaking out, and I have to sleep in that. And part of me was like, I knew this was gonna have to face it. So anyways, we go into the first night of ceremony. And we're sitting with ayahuasca, and I sit, and this vision comes forth, and my grandma shows up. My grandma shows up, she practically raised me, man. She's like, my grandma loved me no matter what. She was the real one, man. Abuelita, man. Oof. And she shows up in my vision as I'm going through it. And she shows up, and I see her, and I'm so happy to see her. And all of a sudden, she morphs into like this big roach, like in front of me, like this, and I'm like this. And she's talking to me, and she goes, I don't know why you're so scared of us. We've been here, we're multi-generational ancient being. We're gonna be here once you're gone, and we've been here long before you got here.
Truth.
Right? And but in my grandma's voice, this thing, like this image is talking, right?
Trip. Yeah.
And then it goes, let me show you how we see the world. And I see it turn around, and like my whole vision broke out into fractals. Like a million fractals, but each fractal was a reflection of the whole picture. Like,
I love it.
You know?
Yeah.
I sit there, and then she's like, let me show you how we feel, you know, with her antennas. And like, I could feel like the empty space, like between here, like it's like gooey. It's like a gooey.
Like the sensing.
Like the ethers. You're moving like.
Like
it's not empty. Like it's actual like a.
Whoa.
It's like a gooey.
This is dope.
Yeah, like right now. Like right now, like if you reach out.
Yeah.
And so I get these feelings, and, you know, we have this interaction. My grandma shows back up, and she holds me in her lap, and we finish ceremony. But after that night, no more roaches in my room, dude. The next 6 days, 7 days were clear. Just that one night when I showed where I had that fear, everything showed up. Wow. And then it was gone. And during that ceremony, at the end of it, we're debriefing. And I told Fabian, I'm like, hey, Fabian, like that song you played with the harmonica was amazing, bro. He's like, what harmonica, man? I was like, that song you played the whole time. He goes, I didn't play the harmonica. I was like, Scott, didn't you hear the harmonica? He's like, no, he didn't play the harmonica. In my mind, I had heard a whole song. Fast forward maybe 4 months later, when he introduced me to Miguel, and I'm sitting in his first Wachuma ceremony, he plays the harmonica. That song that I heard back in the jungle was the same song he played. Wow. And that's when I said, okay, there's something to this. There's something to this other, you know, to this other realm of existence, of knowing, of trusting that things are just being worked out the way they need to be worked out. That way, I can't question what I went through. Yeah. It was part of the curriculum.
Right. Like it's there.
It's there.
Yeah.
It's there. So I might as well just, you know, dig into it, look into it, see what's there. And then, you know, mine the gold, and then pass it on to, the riches and the learnings to my kids where they won't have to do. Because I stopped saying that whole thing when I was young, like, you have no idea. Like, I stopped saying that to them because they don't need to know that.
Yeah.
That's why I went through it.
Yeah.
No, you're abundant. Yeah, you just lost your bike and we happen to have another bike in the garage that we can fix up for you tomorrow and you can have another bike in a day.
Yeah.
Because you're worthy of that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, yes.
Wow, bro. I love that story.
You feel me, man?
I love that.
But that's when I knew, man.
Yeah.
When that song popped off, and music is my jam. Like, music and me are like, that's what got me through, man.
Yeah.
I would get lost in music. So when I heard that song and everybody's like, we didn't play nothing, bro. And then fast forward and it goes, I'm like, that was it.
Bro, I've been in float tanks on some medicine and had full jazz orchestra. You remember in in Dumbo where they're all playing the instrument stuff? I'm just having that was incredible, the whole thing. And then after about like 30 minutes, I was like, what's happening right now?
Yeah.
Like full on jazz, scatting, everything, and I love how you had the fractal little eyes of the roach, or all these little different stories or whatever coming into one, and the feelers and everything. Because oftentimes when I talk to people about medicine journey, everyone has a different experience. Yeah. One of the things that blew my mind was that Kale told me this was literally when me and Kale really like got really close, because he especially loves to test people when he first meets them, and that's how he kind of gauges where he sits with them, right? And we're talking about medicine journey and like at least what I understand and what I've come to understand through these downloads of medicine journey, what we've basically been talking about, right? So I used to be a cosmonaut from like 2010 to like 2013, something like that. Lots of journeys. Basically was an alien. So he was saying to me, do you think that the people in the jungles who have never had contact with this world and who, whose stories and myths are not about heroes conquering evil, but are about nature and about ancestors, do you think that they're getting the same understanding of the world through the medicine journey as you are, when your lens of perception, of values, of just what life is like, movies, all these things that have literally, not to say that they're bad, but have, really built up your mind and the way that you see things, do you think that they would see the medicine journey the same way? I was like, holy fuck, no. Not at all. Not at all. Because their value system would be entirely different than mine from this capitalistic world, from everything like that. And yet, some of the most profound experiences that I have had are similar to what you're talking about, where you really get to tap into this one was just insane, so I'm not even trying to compare it. That was nuts. I loved that when your grandma turns into the road, everything. But really getting to tap into the experience of another and really feel, whether it's plant, animal, fungi, all these things, and really start like, because it's possible.
Well, it's living in that empathetic nature. I can't say that word. Yeah. Empathetic nature, like.
And I think it goes a step beyond the empathetic. It goes into the space of literally being able to allow for the individual. I don't mirror neurons. I don't know what we want to call it, but in that space to really embody it, to really like step into that. It's nuts, bro.
But you want to go there? You want to watch?
I always want to go there.
You want to go there because. Because this is something that I've been leaning into recently. Is like this whole point of origin piece, right? And I'm like, okay, so let me reframe my point of origin, right? I always saw me coming from my mom and dad, right? This human point of origin,
right?
All right, let me take it a little bit further. And in one of my journeys, I actually took it in the womb, past before the womb, before the divine, the conception, before the divine. Like I kept going, kept going to that point of origin. And when what I found is like it just at some point it just started self-inverting in itself. Like it started like I can't explain. Like it started kind of doing this motion, and like that self-inversion.
The Vesica Pisces.
It just creates, right? It just creates. It makes love to itself and just creates. That's the image I got, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, let me look at my life from that point of origin, from this origin, from this ever-creating, loving essence that just keeps creating. And I had this thought driving up here. I'm like, I'm going to be sitting with this brother, but I'm actually talking to myself. This is me talking to me right now.
Yeah. Because if we come from that point of origin with this one divine idea, then it's just
we're playing different roles for each other,
100%.
reflecting back to each other what we need to work on. Like,
and we've cultivated certain
yeah,
things
like
in
I walk
lifetime,
into
but
this beautiful space.
you know?
I'm like, damn, like I want my room to look like this. But with 3 kids,
Yeah.
it looks like this for 2 hours.
right.
Like there's no way
Yeah.
I could keep it like this,
Then
right?
you cleaning all day.
Right. So it's like,
Yeah.
all right, now the reality, all right.
Yeah.
But it's like, damn.
Yeah.
Like what I'm here to experience with you today is I can't explain it, bro. But it's like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's 2 of us talking, but it's really just one sharing the creative mind of what is happening and our different experiences and where we're landing. But like the journey is the same.
Agreed.
I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah.
No, I mean, it does. And like the way that I feel when I'm here, like, yeah, there's like the knocks, there's the sirens, there's all the things. But like, I've been in this space with every single person and it's timeless. We're in a portal. This is just like when I say eternalized conversation, like we are literally stepping into the space of the eternal.
Absolutely.
Because we're not here within a confine. I'm not like, okay, bro, all right. We only got 30 minutes left because we got to go jump to, we're here. We're here. And the intention and the purpose is to be. Like I didn't come in here being like, all right, we're gonna talk about this. This is like, hey, bro, we I'm gonna introduce and whatever, but then we're just riding, and it feels so good to be able to be here and yes, be reflect. Because at the end of the day, like we said, like we're inhabiting these vessels, right? We are not these vessels; we inhabit them.
Oh, we're going there. Yeah. Let's go. Yeah.
I think about it all the time.
I do too.
Like about how we eat food in order to maintain the density, because the actual spirit wants to keep exiting. Like we think about death as like, oh, someone died, the body died, but it's like we eat death in a way every day, or we eat life. Like we're literally consistently like this beautiful mushroom that's like you can see how it's sprouted out. This beautiful leaf, this animal, whatever it is, like has grown and sprouted forth, and then you eat it in order to maintain the density of your body to literally weigh your spirit down into this plane. Otherwise, you will leave. It's not that we are dying, but also it's that the spirit will leave the vessel because the vessel does not inhabit or doesn't maintain the density and the nutrition and all the things to withhold the spirit.
Yeah.
Not that, the body's dead and then the person's gone. No, it's just the vessel wasn't able to retain the spirit.
Well,
that's a wild thing to think about, you know?
Well, it's almost like you feel it too, because I've been every weight between birth and 300 pounds, bro. So I know what it is to navigate this world at those weights.
Right,
man. Like 250 to 280. That's a heavy lift, man. That spirit is not. You're so busy, bro. Like, it takes so. I mean, 250 to 80.
It's taxing to do anything, right?
Taxing to do anything. There's no room.
Yeah.
Because you're busy not trying to die. Literally, I mean, literally, you're like,
fatigue central, right?
Yeah. It's like a whole different dynamic now. 220 for me is ideal. Like, I've been 185, and I it's the other side for me. 185 is too small,
it's ungrounded,
too airy.
Right.
So, but 220, it's right.
Yeah.
But what I had to get away from was like what 220 is supposed to look like,
you know what I'm saying? Bro, I'm 5'5", 195. I'm strong as
you
fuck.
Look solid as that.
You know what I'm saying?
You know what? When this broke through for me, I was following these dudes, right? And I was like, I'm on a physical journey. I'm trying to get motivated. So I'm pulling from everywhere. I'm like, okay, this guy's doing this. This guy's doing that. This guy's doing that. And they're having these unreal results. I'm like, fuck, I must be doing something wrong. Long story short, they come out maybe 4 or 5 months later, like, oh yeah, I was on TRT. I was doing the whole time. And I sat there with myself. With myself. I'm like, I'm holding myself to these standards of these individuals who are choosing to do a different way. Yeah. Which is great. But
the compare game, bro.
But I'm never gonna reach that. If I'm not doing the test and I'm not doing, then I'm not, it's not realistic. And so I had to let go of that and be like, my 220 is my 220, dog. And it's gonna look the way it's gonna look.
1000%
You feel me?
I mean, we would be considered obese.
Bro, Kaiser has me at morbidly obese. I should be. Kaiser has me in the fucking ground. Every time I go, it's like, bro, your BMI is 89. I'm like, I'm sorry. I was like, my people build pyramids. We need to run, okay? Like, we didn't need to run long distances. But it's like, damn. It's like that level of like letting go of that. Yeah. And like, no, this is a good way for me. Like, I feel good right now. And when I don't, I don't. I know it.
Yeah,
And it's time to do some other
your
things.
body's communicating.
Yeah.
It's all and like this whole thing, it's so fun to go on this topic because I was a chubby kid. Got super, super, super insecure in high school. I was like, oh shit, girls don't like me, blah, blah, blah. I got down to about 11% body fat naturally.
Wow, bro.
I was going and taking my allowance.
I don't even know what 11 looks like.
I was going to, I was getting my allowance and going and buying Hydroxycut from the stores.
Oh, hell yeah, okay, I feel
did all
you.
sorts
All right.
of crazy
Yeah,
shit,
yeah.
bro. I bought all sorts of stuff off of eBay by myself, and green tea and steak, and I was still so insecure. And I did all sorts of stuff because I was like trying to be more, be better.
Yes.
It was wild, man. And at the end of the day, I got to this place once I came to this understanding of like my worth. I was like, man, I'm so worthy. I almost got complacent with the body. Where I was like, I feel so worthy that I'm like, I don't really feel the need to try to impress anyone anymore. And it actually started to slip, and I started to lose the devotion towards something more than myself and towards actually achieving and building more. And since then, it's been a really fun ride. And yet, even within that, it's like, where is that line in regards to where are our choices coming from unworthiness and trying to fill that, and where are our choices coming from of not being attached to grief and then being attached to humility and gratitude and doing something more than caring just about ourselves and about our looks and like, oh, I want to experience life and I want to have fun. But it's like, no, I want to be here for my kids. I want to be here for my grandkids. I want to be here for the world. I want to show up in the highest way possible. I want to have the biggest impact possible. And I'm still achieving that. Like I've been in this space of gaining weight, losing weight, trying to shred, like doing jujitsu, doing all the things. And yet ultimately I had kept that from letting me show up in these ways. Because I'm like, fuck, like I know what I could be. Let's get back to there. And then not having that push because I'm not feeling insecure and shit to,
because that energy is not necessary right now. Like it's a whole different vibe, you know?
I'm not cutting for a bodybuilding competition, and nor do I care to.
Right, bro. Yeah,
I don't. I mean, I want to look shredded, sure, but I want to get there at a space where I'm getting their health in a space that's healthy,
where it's sustainable,
not a burnout,
and maintainable,
sustainable and maintainable.
Yeah.
And it's actually really unhealthy to be cut all the time unless you're genetically like that. Yeah. Like you're a Vata or you're a Pitta, like an ex.
Well, I ain't even a Fata. I don't know what.
We're Kapha, bro. We're endomorph. That's what we are. We're the endomorphs. That's what it is. We put on muscle quick and we lose fat quick, but we gain it back just as fast. Yeah. So, and that's the way it is. Like, that's the other thing I want to say too. All these people, like there's like this, what is it, 500-pound life, 600-pound life? Like there are people who literally put themselves to the brink of death with food and all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't see how they're alive. Like you've been insane. 300. I've been at 220 at a 5'5" frame. Like, so I know what it feels like to be overweight, and I already feel really heavy. I can't imagine being 400, 500, 600 pounds.
300 is try getting out of bed on that one, man.
And yet,
try tying your shoes at that one, bro. Yeah.
And yet there's people who are marathon runners, people who are like athletes, MMA, dropping dead.
Yeah.
So it's so funny how we can try to have control over everything. Like so much of my life was like, I'm gonna try to control this. I'm gonna try to, like these dudes in porn have a big dick. I'm gonna try to get a big dick. I'm gonna try to get really shredded so that all the girls like me. I'm gonna try to do this and that, blah, blah, blah. It's like, how much control do we really have over this thing? And at the end of the day, like if you were to get taken out, we both said like, we could be taken out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't, you could be like, oh, I'm a marathon runner. I do this or that. There's no way I'm getting taken out. In this day and age, I am absolutely surprised. I'm shocked. Those two sisters, like, God bless their, their soul, they're still here. I think one of them got surgery. They're doing better. But I was like, how are these fucking sisters in their like getting towards their late 40s, 50s, something like that, being like 500, 600 pounds. And yet there's these young, 19-year-old MMA girl dying. Like, what is it called? The sudden adult death SADS, people just dropping.
That's how individualized the journey is, right? Every person,
it's proven it to us, right?
Yeah, every person, when I started on this journey for me, when I got real, it was like when I read somewhere like the body could be one of the biggest healing portals there is.
It is.
Because to learn to love the body and to provide it with nutrients and to do what's needed to be done to be healthy requires a certain level of courage, because The part that I had to really work with was like, as the weight was coming off, all the feelings that come up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because to me, like, weight became like a frequency, bro. Like
It's
like,
absolutely a
like
frequency.
280.
It's a density.
280 carries a certain level of weight up, not only physical, but like of like emotional weight
Mental,
with it.
all of it, yeah.
And as I was losing the pounds at 270, 250, the emotions got more intense and more acute.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I was willing to look at them,
Yeah.
it got easier. But when I was like trying to eat them out of the way, or you know, I still have my moments where I binge and all this stuff. Of
course.
But it's like vegan cookies and you know, but it's like improvement, right?
Right.
And like I'm more graceful with myself, because before those binges would last days, man. Like I would go on benders, man.
When you weren't using the glycogen that you are now running.
Yeah.
It's different. Nowadays, like if I'm doing tons of jiu-jitsu and lifting, like I'm like, oh, there's a reason why I'm craving carbs.
Right.
Because I need to replenish my glycogen so that I can actually perform.
I knew when I was doing it for all the other bad.
No, me too, me
exactly,
too.
Bro.
But
like,
also, like, maybe it was also because, like, you know, you had issues with your body. I have issues with my, like, why are we not taking, we're meant to be moving, right? But in the state of depression, we're not moving.
Oh, man.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, for a lot of bodybuilders, a lot of like really amazing athletes, they eat a lot. And a lot of them have shifted their lifestyle so that they can actually eat the way that they do, right? Because there's something there to it. And there's a certain level of maintenance there. And it's really easy to get in that slippery slope where it's just like, oh, okay, I'm just going to fucking go this way. And then it starts becoming that habit of suppression instead of like giving out and bringing in, giving out, bringing in, you know?
Yeah, man. I went through it. Like I had shoulder surgery in September. I tore my shoulder up. Because before that, I was doing jiu-jitsu, I was doing basketball, weightlifting, and I was running the same day.
Too much.
All not to gain weight. I was still eating the same. I was binging. I was right. It was
you need
this
recovery.
was like 7 months ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my body kept saying, "Bro, slow down." No, but because I wanted to keep this.
That's why I got this.
Wanted to keep whatever my body was going like.
Yeah.
Basketball, all that. Long story short, at the gym, doing press, boom, goes.
What happened? Deltoid?
Oh, complete tear.
On your shoulder. On your deltoid or rotator cuff?
This rotator cuff.
Yeah. Yep, there it is.
Complete gap. And I think I was one of the jiu-jitsus I was pulling out. You know, I wasn't doing technique. I was doing more force.
Oh, yeah.
You pull out of the arm bar.
Yeah.
Doing it for all the wrong reasons. So I have shoulder surgery. I go from like doing all these activities to not being able to.
Yeah.
I couldn't even bathe myself. Like Tori had to help me bathe myself.
Oh, yeah.
Like, talk about being put back. Like it's like spirits, like because my spirits talk like cholos. They're like, hey, go sit down over there, fool. Yeah. Like you're doing too much.
Yeah.
Go sit down over there.
Yeah. When you gonna learn?
When you gonna learn? I told you. Sure enough, shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
Boom. At that point, I was feeling physically I was okay. I was light. But I hadn't dealt with the emotional piece, man. And here I go from fucking 1,400 calories a day to like nothing, right? I'm sitting there just, I can't move.
Surplus.
I can't move.
Yeah.
But I'm eating the same.
Right. That's what
you feel me?
100%.
So here comes the weight.
Yeah.
And then the shoulder, the harness for my shoulder has a strap that comes around here, you know, to hold it in place.
Getting tighter.
Yeah. Tighter. You know, right? And so I'm rationalizing, it's not too bad. But now I'm lying down in bed, and because I have to sleep, you know, upright. Right. I have to each night. I have to like adjust it,
loosen it a little bit. Yeah.
And it's getting to me, bro. And I'm like, oh my god, here comes the weight again.
Yeah.
And it was this morning. I had this come to Jesus meeting with myself. Man, it's like it's like everybody cuddle up, and it's like, look, either get comfortable with being big. I'm gonna say it the way I said it. Either get comfortable with being fat. Yeah. And sloppy, or do something about it. But this whole in between thing of stop.
Yeah, enough not being honest.
Exactly. Yeah, it's time to get real. Yeah, I said okay. I'm like, what do I need to do? And it's like I had before that I had done research, and like the first thing you could probably do is like a bike. So I bought a bike. Yeah,
bikes are fucking great, bro.
Amazing, bro. Amazing.
They're so good.
So I work better with challenges. So I'm like, okay, so what do I need to do? So I said, okay, for the next month, I'm going to get up and I'm going to write 1,000 calories every day.
Nice.
Every fucking day. Non-negotiable.
How many miles was that? 15?
That's 26, 23, 24 on the bike.
24 miles.
Every day. Non-negotiable.
That's a lot. Yeah.
I don't care if it takes me 3 hours,
Yeah.
4 hours, non-negotiable, it's happening. If we're going to get serious about this, then all right, then let's get serious about this.
Yeah.
I would get up, bro, every day, 5 o'clock in the morning, 1,000 miles. The first 2 days is cute.
Yeah.
Week 2, week 3,
It's a lot.
shit hurting.
Well, you need rest days, bro.
Nah, it wasn't that non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. Because I knew that the man that started that journey was not going to be the same man that finished it. By the end of the month, I had almost 28,000 calories under and like 26 miles every day, whatever the calculated, but it's enormous numbers.
Yeah, it's insane.
I was like, damn, okay, I did that.
Nice.
I was like, okay, my body started feeling better. Then I was allowed to start running. So I'm like, all right, let me get out there running. Next month, 8 to 10 miles every day. Non-negotiable.
No shit.
Non-negotiable.
Holy shit. That's a lot.
And I was like, okay. That little voice, I was like, okay. Got out there, started learning about running shoes, started doing my research, started really getting into like what I needed.
Taking it serious. You got to
take it seriously.
You're preparing. Yeah.
Completed that month, ran every day,
Fuck
8
yeah,
months.
bro.
Wasn't the same man. I was like, damn, there's something to this.
Yeah.
And then I started pulling back. Once I got to that point, I started pulling back.
Okay, good.
I started pulling back. I'm like, okay, so now I know I can do it.
Right.
Now I know it's doable.
Yeah.
Now I know what that feeling is like. And I know like it's possible. So then I started pulling back. I'm like, okay, now let's run one day, bike next day.
Yeah.
No, I just love running. I mean, that's my time when I contemplate and I move a lot. And then while I'm doing that, Spirit's like, start waking up at 3.
Oh, shit.
Because I was reading and I was doing that 3 to 5 hour, how important that is, the work that can be done during that 3 to 5 hour in the morning. Started working up at 4, and before I know it, 3 o'clock. Started running at 3, outside.
No shit.
Running.
Wow.
And that's when I got deep, because that veil was so thin of those 2 hours.
Oh, yeah. Switching hour.
There's some things.
Yeah, there's some things, bro.
That move, and there's some things that move within me. Some agreements that were made, some things that were let go. Like, you know, when you're in that 6 mile and like, it's only you and you. Nobody else is going to know if you stopped. Nobody else knows if you're going to quit halfway up the hill.
Yeah. No.
But I know.
You will. Yeah.
And so that voice, that accountability piece of like, no, we're gonna do this, started kicking in. And then I started applying that to everything else. How I clean the house. All right, if you're gonna clean the house, then you can clean the house right.
Yeah.
You're gonna sweep under the sofas, not just around them.
Right.
You're gonna fold the sheet.
Only you know.
Well, only I know, right? Nobody's gonna know.
Yeah.
But I know.
Yeah.
But
and the energy's different too. The energy's different when you do stuff like that too. Yeah. When you wake up at 3, you're still doing that? Mm-hmm. What time do you go to sleep?
Oh, I'm in bed by 9. Oh, it's a whole adjustment, man. Yeah,
because you got to be. So what's interesting, and I don't want to say like, you know, when you were like, okay, and then I pulled back, I was like, okay, good.
Yeah.
The reason why I say that is, you know, I wear this Whoop, right? I had an Aura ring. For me, it's always been me, similar to your shoulder, doing too much. I'm always super ambitious, and I can push hard. I can push through pain. Like, so I would always do too much, and I'd either get sick or I get injured. And then it set me back. And it was just like, sick, injured, setback, sick, injured, setback. I'm just like, fuck, I can't be consistent at all.
Yeah.
Right? I'm paying for this. I'm paying for jujitsu. I'm doing this, da-da-da-da-da. And then, once again, the weight comes back, all the things, and then I'm not able to progress. And it's like, yo, man, we're either going to fucking take this shit seriously or we're never going to fucking get anywhere. And that's why I love the Whoop. It shows me my strain, my recovery based on my heart rate variability and how much sleep I'm getting. My biggest thing is sleep.
Yeah.
Because like, even if I'm getting to bed at a certain time, it's hard for me to get the adequate amount of sleep. And that's the thing that I'm trying to hack right now. I've been trying a lot of things, but specifically in regards to doing too much, I'm in full agreement, because that's been one of the things I love about this is if I'm feeling a little like, oh man, my immunity feels low, or I'm feeling a little tired, or like, shit, I don't know, you know, the voice in my mind, my grandparents, my parents, come on. And it's funny because I'm editing my podcast with my grandpa that I did, right? You know, he's 99, and I'm asking him like, Grandpa, what does gaman mean to you? He's like, it means like you just, when it gets hard, you just fucking do it
Yeah.
and you get through it and blah, blah. And then I was talking to one of my other guests who's Japanese and I'm talking about gaman and he's like, oh, you mean patience?
The other way. Which both are right.
Both are right.
Both are right.
Both are right.
Intense patience.
you know? And so for me, gaman is like instilled in me. It's like push through when it's hard.
Yeah.
And that's why I love David Goggins. At the same time, that shit doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah, it don't.
Because like for some people, it's learn to take a break. And when you do take a break, come back.
Yeah.
And jump back in.
That's the key, bro.
You know? But
Yeah.
no, like some people just need to get their ass off the couch.
But you
And
know,
David,
but you know when you're in that place of like, oh, if I don't go to the gym one day, I'm gonna gain everything.
right? Or like I want to keep comfort. You know?
Yeah. So now it's like the discomfort of not going to the gym and taking the time to rest.
That's exactly what's been happening.
And then also like adjusting, because I love my 3 o'clock hour, man. Like that's my time. Like I'm done before anybody's up.
Sacred.
You know what I mean? Like
that's sanctuary right there.
Yeah, that's where I go and I breathe. But I had to adjust, and my family had to adjust. Like Tori knows, like I'm in bed by 9. It's not personal, girl. Like, and she supports it, and she's the other way. She stays up until 12. Like she operates different rhythms.
And then she joins you in bed?
No, she stays up and does her thing.
Right, but do you sleep in the same bed? Like and that don't wake you up?
No.
Oh damn.
No.
You sleep good then.
Yeah, bro, because I'm by 7, that's my 14th hour.
That's true.
Yeah,
true. You're just like
by the time I've cooked dinner, like I've done so much.
You're like, deuces, I'm out.
Yeah, like that's one of the things like I'm loving right now about where I am, and it's like if I'm cooking, man. Like I cooked my kids were like, man, I cooked one of the sickest meals a couple of days ago.
Oh.
Out of like instinct, like I put together like a salmon and potato thing for them, and like I get to cook that for my kids.
Nice,
but I'm there, like I'm cooking it. I'm there.
Yeah.
You know, and cooking is like it's tiring too. You're chopping, you're cleaning, and all that stuff. I used to be a chef.
You
know how it is, bro. Kitchen job, and so like I'm engaged. Like I'm engaged in my day.
Yeah.
You know, I might sit down and watch SportsCenter for half an hour, but then I get back up because there's things to do.
Yep.
I'm not sitting there like I used to for 5-6 hours watching TV, bro.
Depressed.
That's what I was do.
Yeah.
You know, but now that I'm engaged, like by 9 o'clock, I'm good. And then I get to go to bed in a good way where I feel like I given it all I've had.
Yeah.
I showed up the best I could.
This is interesting to me.
And and it's a wrap. And I can rest easy, you know?
Because for me, so I've been learning, you know, as you saw, you met Wendy. One of the things that I've been navigating is that in the past, my partner would always go to bed later than me. And my whole thing was thrive at 5, right? Like wake up at 5, you thrive. And that was my time to go on a run and then start my day before I start work at like 7 in the morning, something like that. And for her to be staying up late and fucking around and stuff, I'd be like, it wake me up. I'd be hearing her, or, you know, she'd come in and be waking me up and it'd fuck with my sleep, and then I'm all fucked up for my schedule, right? And so it'd be a certain level of accountability on her, but a certain level of accountability on me. Like, she's her sovereign being. She could choose to do whatever she wants, and yet at the same time it'd be like, yo, this is fucking with me. This isn't conducive. And yet to hear how you're able to operate in it in a way that functions for you and you're able to just own your peace is inspiring to me, and also makes me be like, oh, okay, like what are the other things that were happening during those times that I could have done? Like for me, I never wear earplugs, even though I'll sleep better because I'm the guy and I got to be ready. Like if I hear some shit, and at the same time, like how ready will I be if I'm never getting sleep? And how will I potentially like fuck up the family?
Right.
You know, can I trust my gut instincts to know to take them off? And if I'm hearing something, or like you know what I mean? So there's a lot there. So I appreciate you saying that, because, something that I'm learning, and I was just giving my nephew advice on this, is that your partner doesn't have to like agree with all the things that you like or like all the things that you like. Right. It's about the love, and it's about the loyalty. It's about the history. It's about, you know, what you're choosing to be committed to. It's not about being the same person and doing all the same things.
No.
Right. And I feel like, at least for me, that was always a big thing. And yet, once again, ideal isn't real. Right.
Oh man, you know, that's something that's learned too, because you have to learn the other person's ways. You know, like my way is not her way.
Right.
You know, I think because you know we've sought therapy, we've been through it, man. Like we've worked through some really hard stuff, and one of the things that the therapist kept reminding us, like, you guys are allies, not adversaries. Like, remember that. Like, you're together for a reason.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you how I met my wife, man. I was divorcing my second. I've been married 3 times.
Got you.
I was going through my second divorce, and my friend was holding this workshop for singles. And he's like, come out, just hang out with good people. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, the process in that seminar was that we had in a big ass white paper we had to put where we were in our life. And currently it's going to it's like $28,000 in debt, fucking cars half broken. I'm living with my parents in their 1-bedroom apartment, like just absolutely like just put it down.
Yeah.
And her friend was there. She's like, hey, I need you to meet somebody. I'm like, man, I don't want to meet anybody. Like, I'm not even out of the second one, and you want me to meet this new person. But she kept on insisting. I'm like, all right, whatever, fine. So let's set it up. Long story short, I meet Tori at a Starbucks, and I have my white paper with me, bro, and I rolled it out. I rolled out my white paper that I had done that weekend. I rolled out my white paper.
Your resume?
No, yes, and look, I'm going to be $28,000 in debt, getting divorced, living with my parents, my car hardly works, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, if you want to kick it, that's cool. If you don't, then that's cool too.
Wow.
And she's like, hey, let's go have dinner. I'm like, okay, let's go have dinner. But that was how I met her, and that's been our approach this whole time, man. Is like
vulnerable from the beginning,
bro. That's how.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Wow, that's beautiful, man.
That's all I know now, man. It's like that's the quickest way to get through something is to be vulnerable and sometimes say like, damn, like I need help, or hey, that was my meme. Like I missed that one. Like, you know, like taking responsibility for what needs to be taking responsibility and moving on. Yeah. But man, she's great and like just supporting in what I need to do, because I'm the type that needs to go into the jungle. I need to go lick some frogs. I need to hug some trees. I need to roll in the dirt. I need to do this. I need to, like that. Like that's mine. That's something that the therapist pointed out. Like Hugo needs to go out and do those things. Yeah. You don't. And for a long time, I was either holding the expectation that she would join me someday. Yeah. And then she would be like, I should be doing that. Right. And we finally got to the point where like, nah, she does drum circles and she does her medicine and she does her thing. Yeah. And that's how she sustains. And I do my thing and I go do these things. I go these. That's how we do it. Right. But there's common ground. Yeah. Where we come together and be like, we're doing it for a purpose. Like it's a higher calling than what we think it is for, you know? Yeah. Because we're healing so many lines together from what we saw from her upbringing. That was similar to mine, to my upbringing. That was similar to hers, bringing those two worlds together and then sending off the kids on a whole new trajectory, man. Wow. I mean, that's where the cash is from. That's where it is for me, man. That's the gold.
Yeah. No, honestly, that's beautiful because, they're based on our perspective and how we choose to see things. Like, we will either find gratitude or we will find resentment.
That's it.
You know? Yeah. And in order for us to lean to either side, we have to see what the value is. And if we don't know what the value is on the side of the gratitude, then we'll never choose it. You know, we're more apt to choose resentment. We're more apt to like choose to blame, like, oh, well, you know, this is why this, instead of being like, actually, oh, wow, this special thing, this very, very special thing that will never be curated unless I choose to perceive things as, okay, yeah, I got to choose that. If we're not aware, it you know, at least I could speak for myself, but I feel like it's a lot of humanity right now. It's what you're talking about with your relationship and choosing to do your own personal work, your own personal development, your own maintenance work on spirit, soul, emotional, mental, body level, all around is so important. And then also to not have to have it all be the same. Right. To have it be able to look different and to have the common ground of doing it, as well as having the devotion to each other, as well as to the children. Like, what more can you ask for? Like, what the fuck? You can't, bro. You can't. You can't. And once again, the ideal isn't real. Like, okay, it's all happy. We're teammates and we do all the same shit together. It's honestly kind of lame when I think about it. And yet, why have I wanted that? Why have I been like, if it's not that, it's not right? You know? Yeah, man. That's such a... That's such an introspective, personal thing, man. I don't know, you know, like each person has their own, you know, for me, it was like you grow up seeing so much dysfunction that it becomes normal. Agreed. Yeah. And it becomes our normal way to respond to things too. Exactly. Yeah. And you don't know it's dysfunctional until you move into another arena where that dysfunction doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and you're called out on it, and you're like, oh, well, okay, well, that's not going to work here. Let me see what else I need to do then to create a whole new situation, you know, that's different than what I grew up.
Yeah.
And then not being so stuck on trying to be so different that you end up being that thing that you want to be different from.
So
if
funny,
that makes
right?
sense,
Yes.
bro.
Yes,
Like,
it does. Yeah.
You know, like the more I didn't want to be like my dad, the more I was being like him until I was like, okay, you know what? Like, it's not about that.
Yeah.
It's not about that anymore. Now it's about like, what experience am I providing to my kids? What experience am I providing to my kids from a place of where I have worked my own stuff to the point where I can be different, or show up differently for them, you know? And what reference point would they have of me? I always trip out on that. I always think about that. Like, what thoughts will they have of me when they're going through something and like, oh, damn, Dad.
Yeah.
You know, because I do that. So, oh, my dad did this and did that. You know, my dad taught me a lot of good things, man. First at work, last to leave, work ethic, you know, dedication. You do what you got to do. You push through it. Like all those things were I was able to provide for my family with that for a long time.
Yeah.
You know? So what are my kids going to pull from? Like what's in their bag of tools? What are they going to be like? Oh yeah, Dad used to do that. Or oh yeah, Dad, mom did this, mom did that. Or they used to do this together. You know, stuff like that. Like that's all. I might and I may not see that. You know, I might not be here to see them moving through those areas, but at least I'm planting the seeds with them. And
all you can do is what you're doing, right?
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Across the board.
Across the board. Yeah. It. You know, it's so funny, just something I wanted to say, because you were saying, like, you know, the more that you try not to do the thing, the more that it happens. Brings me back to the skit I did where it's like the people who try not to have an ego, and they start having an ego about not having an ego. You know what I mean? And yet when you're talking about your kids and what they'll see you as, or like have that voice, the fact that it is something that you were present with, that you're actually directing energy towards making that happen in a positive way, is I think something that we can say is not something that generations in the past have necessarily done. Potentially because they have been in situations where they're just fucking trying to do as best as they can, and they're just fucking at the end of the rope already. Yeah, dude.
My dad was trying to figure out where he was going to get his next meal.
Right.
Or what bench he was going to sleep under. You know, like that was what he was working with. And he still made it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the strength. Like I look back at him and I'm like, the strength of this man to do what he had to do to get to where he got us. You know? The work and dedication.
Yeah.
To have to leave us, you know, leave me when I was in El Salvador to come and work here for a year. Like not seeing my dad, not having my dad around when I was 2-3 years old. And my mom being gone for a couple of years too. Like not having my parents. Now I understand like child development and how important it is to have your parents present during those times.
Right.
I mean, like I was thinking about this when we were driving up here. For some reason it came into mind. Like, I don't have any baby pictures, bro. I don't know what I look like as a baby. We lost them in a fire in El Salvador. I don't know what I looked like as a baby. You know? Know how fucked up that is?
Yeah.
Not to have an image of what I look like? Not one. I've never seen a picture of myself as a baby, bro. Maybe I saw a copy of one once when they were holding it, but you can't even fucking see my face. What's that about?
Yeah.
Why that? Why that curriculum? You feel me? And I'm with Tori, who loves taking pictures. Like she like documents everything.
Yeah.
And I've learned to appreciate that because my
and
kids
not be resentful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to hate taking pictures, bro.
When you say this, it's interesting because you're a man in the modern day who, I mean, obviously, like in our generation itself, things have like changed drastically, you know, from like the old initial like Mac computers and like Atari to like where we're at now, you know what I mean? And yet, if you think about, you know, you not having baby pictures, what comes up for me is like, you're saying like, what does that do for me? What is the curriculum there? I think about like my grandfather, we have some baby pictures of him, like really rough baby pictures. his dad doesn't have none.
Mm-hmm.
His dad after him doesn't have none. How disconnected is the inner child from our like past when that wasn't even an option?
Bro, you know when they tell you bring in your inner child into your heart, and I don't even know what he looked like. So I started tapping into more of a vibe, a frequency. Okay, to that childhood genius that survived what he had to do. You know, survived through whatever he had to do to get to where he got. You know, like tapping into that. But do I wish I knew? Yeah. There's a part of me that wants to know what I look like.
Absolutely.
You know.
And you know, it's the one thing that I will say too is that you know how when you see yourself on maybe these videos, we can see ourselves and we're like, oh, okay, we know what we look like. And yet sometimes someone takes like a candid of you. You're like, oh, that's what I look like in the real world. You know what I mean?
It's like the phone call.
You know,
that's what my voice
you
sounds
know
like.
what I'm saying? I mean, I've gotten used to my voice and all these things now, but like, you know, we were in this video yesterday and it was like from the side on like a phone camera. I'm like, oh shit, that's what I look. Oh, okay. And so regardless of what, you know, we can, at the end of the day, it is romanticized. It's all in our heads anyways, as to like the inner child and so forth. And yet I do sympathize for what you're saying. And yet I would say that what you're able to feel is just as real, if not more real, than someone else who has a picture too. Oof. And so, you know, just, you know, saying that and that even if someone does have a picture, like it may very well be skewed in the very amalgamous imaginations that we have that are just like, you know, morphing like they do in our dreams and stuff. But yeah, no, I hear that. And I love you saying that because I haven't really thought about, if you think back, you know, in hundreds of years back, you know, more quote unquote archaic times and stuff like that. Consistent warring, consistent, you know, this and that, just consistent tragedy and misfortune in regards to like how women are treated, men are treated, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And yet there's babies, but like how many, you know, I'm just correlating it. I don't know if there's a direct correlation, but what can come online by being able to see the individual as a baby, as a child, like actually having that picture. You know, that's something that's only happened in the past 100 years or so, right? 100, 150 years. I don't know how long it's been. To be able to be like, oh, wow, I was that baby and become humbled by it. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but even have the option to be like, oh, I was that. Whoa, let me tap into that, you know? Someone can do that without the picture, so I'm not saying that it's not available. But hearing you have that longing and that grief for that also does bring it online, like, you know, what about the individuals who never even had the option?
It's crazy.
And how deep in just the one lane of I'm a man, power, ego, control, women, all the things, you know, just staying alive, whatever it is online, and all that stuff is just so far gone. Don't know. No way to know.
No.
I appreciate you bringing it up though, because it does bring that thought up, and it does bring up some compassion for like the past as well. You know.
Yeah.
Because it's a beautiful thing that an individual like yourself is able to even have that scenario, to long for that, and then through that to have that healing process where you then get to witness that with your kids and once again choose to be more and show up in a better way, you know? Like all of it compounds.
It's all, that's what I mean. It's all feeding into like the spiritual and soul growth, man. You know, like soul lessons. You know, I've come to the, like, for me, what makes sense is like my time here is just another chapter in a book.
Yeah.
I just happen to be Hugo.
Yeah.
This time, you know, and I'm here to feel things as much as I can and do things and experience as much as I can. But this is temporary. Yeah. This is finite.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm learning to like, hey, you better, if you're going to cook, you better cook. You know what I mean? If you're going to pick up your kids, you better pick them up.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the one thing that for me is like critical, like they got to know I love them, man. I think one of the things I missed most as a kid was not being able to say, I love you, Dad. Because I didn't have any reason to. Yeah. And I tell my kids all the time, and I love you, and I tell them, and I hug them, and I do as much as I can. And they're here and there, they'll be like, I love you, Dad. Mm-hmm. My little dude is like, I love you, Dad. Like, good night, Dad. Yeah. But to hear that. Yeah. Yeah. To hear that, and you know, then I see my dad, and I could say to him, I love you, Dad. Like, now. Yeah. Yeah. Like it just all reverberate. Like it's all like just
Bro.
this huge, you know.
It's such a crescendo of just like all of, you know, you think about like a movie, you know, the trajectory, as much as people might shit on like the hero's journey and all this stuff, shit's true, at least in the way we're living it, right? Like go through all of the struggle and the tragedy and the adversity and all this stuff, and then to grow from it, and then to choose differently, to choose to be more, and like it's such a fucking like you said, come to Jesus, come to God moment, where it's like this crescendo of just like glory that we're in, and it's like it's happening right now.
It's happening.
It's happening right now.
It's happening.
Yeah.
I had an Akashic reading with somebody, and she said to me, she said, "You keep waiting for something to happen." It's like, don't you realize it's happening right now?
Right now.
It's happening right now.
Yeah.
There's nothing to wait for.
Just add a soundtrack if you want to believe it. Just fucking put on some movie music or something.
All that is like, literally all that stuff that you wish you were doing, you're doing it.
Yeah.
So what is?
Yeah.
It's like, what is your hurry? Like,
right.
What more do you want? Like, enjoy. Like, be here.
Yeah.
You know.
That's how I feel about my family here. My grandparents are 99, 96. My whole family's, for the most part, still here and around.
Man,
it's like every, you know, and my family likes to play it down. We like to joke around, roast each other, this and that, have fun, blah, blah, blah. And so it's not like a, you know, Hallmark loving, you know, blah, blah, but there's a lot of love there.
Oh, yeah.
And in those spaces, I'm like, that's why I'm here, because I know that this is finite. I know it doesn't last forever. And I'm in it. And yeah, there's not movie music playing. We're not like all hugging in a thing like, yeah, you know, we're all not all sobbing and crying. But the richness is happening right now.
Oh, it's happening, bro.
And that's why I'm here for. I'm present for it, because like these moments, these times where the kids are still young, where they're still living at home. Like, not only have you were having a baby, you're like, damn, I didn't realize I'd be having teenagers, and then all of a sudden they're out of the house. You'd be like, I didn't realize that after this many years, it would just, the nest is empty. It stops.
Yeah, already feeling it, man. Like they're more independent, you know, they're more doing their own thing. And you know, once they start driving, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to have their own situations happening.
Yeah.
You know, as you were speaking, something came to mind, because I remember hearing somebody, and it made a lot of sense to me. The gentleman was saying, like, be willing to be a transitional character in your story. And the way he defined transitional was like, be that person that takes all the pain, all the trauma, alchemizes it, and moves it into a whole different area of creation, and uses it as the fire to create new things.
Wow.
Like, be that transitional character. When I heard that, it really resonated. Like, I'm gonna be that character, that person in my generational line of men, and my mom, because let's not even get into the mother wound. That's a whole nother 4 hours. But it's real. Yeah, taking all those things and just bringing as much to completion, and then taking that and building, creating new. Yeah, you know. At the same time. At the same
time as also like being in it, you know, and being present in it, and being grateful, and experiencing that the thing is happening as we speak.
It's happening.
And we're processing and analyzing it and healing through it and moving through all the shit and all the shit at the same fucking time.
Well, that's where we're reflecting. It's been almost 2 years, and it feels like a blink. Yeah, you've been doing your thing. I've been doing my thing. It's true. And then look, here we are coming together.
Feels like we were just in Tepoztlan, like
Mexico feels like Mexico was last month.
Oh, and that was so special.
Mexico did something, man.
And that's why, regardless of all of the things that I can victimize myself with in the doc and all the stuff that happened and da-di-da-di-da-di-da, I can always own the story that I chose to put, you know, all my savings on the line and do all these things and blah, blah, to experience and grow relationships that I would have never otherwise. Like, I wouldn't have been in Tepos if it wasn't for doing that thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, that was the best. That was the best.
Dude, Tepos
that was the best. Just mic drop.
Bro.
You know?
That moved something in me, man. That being on that. Shout out to Manu and Yvonne. I love those bros, man.
Yeah.
But Yeah,
my
that-
dessert.
That land, man, that land moved me into this space of like, it's time.
Yeah.
It's time to stand within yourself, and it's time to find a value within yourself, and it's time to, no more golden calves. It's time to own yourself, own that part of you that knows that it knows, man.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that I know certain things that I just know.
Yeah.
I can't tell you why I know them, but
Yeah.
I know them.
And you don't need to prove why you know them.
I know.
Fuck,
I just
shit.
know it. It's like
Yeah.
trusting that part, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bro, to the point where I've like been in situations where I've had trips planned, like bought tickets, ready to fly out. I'll be on my run in the morning, and it comes through. Don't go.
Yeah.
And I've learned to listen to that,
Awesome.
and I won't go.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, it's revealed why I shouldn't have been there.
Right. Yep.
Don't go.
Yeah.
Or listening when it says, "Do it. Go.
Yep.
Put
Agreed.
that dancing video online. Do it."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah.
the part of me that doesn't want to be judged and wants to be looked as ridiculous.
Right.
I have to, like the bison, we got to go head first into that storm, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
It might look like a dancing video of me dancing salsa, but to get to that point, it was hours of self-judgment and self-doubt.
Oh, bro.
Just be real with it, bro.
Oh, yeah.
And the
Yeah.
retaking and all that stuff. And and at some point, it's just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it or don't do it at all. Stop. Stop
Yeah.
this whole in
But you know
between.
you can't not do it.
Right. Because if I don't do it, then I know I didn't do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
and then
a whole-
and then you're not at ease. It's dis-ease. You know you're not, and then it's disease.
right. Because
you know?
it was an inspired moment to do
Yeah.
it, and I said no to it.
Right.
I guess that's what I'm getting to. Like,
Yeah.
there's these moments of inspiration in my life that I've
Yeah.
learned to say yes to.
Yeah. Well, two things there. For one, I love this. I love that we're getting on this topic. I was just talking to my coach about this the other day. Some people were asking about being on the podcast. I'm like, I don't know him. I don't necessarily get the vibe. I've never had anyone ask to be on. It's always been I know the people who I want to have on.
Yeah.
And he knows him. And I was like, what do you think? He's like, well, what do you get? I'm like, this, and this. He's like, yeah, you're pretty spot on. I'm like, good. Yeah, I thought so. Because throughout my life, you were talking about being spiritual and being naive. Bro, I awoken in 2011 off a 4-hit journey of LSD and completely blasted off. I was basically in the DMT space. I purged. It was the whole thing. And I continued doing journeys like that for like a year or two after that. And when I first found the transformational festival scene, out of being a b-boy and a raver, I ended up seeing all these people with dread, sacred geometry tattoos. I'm like, oh, they all know what's up. They didn't have the same journey as me. Oh, that was a gift to me. They didn't get that, right?
Yeah.
And so it was a journey of not being naive there and also recognizing like, oh, okay, there's something I've been gifted here. That gift has responsibility and it's also been a blessing. And in that, this intuition of reading people is not something that I should, there's a fine line between not trusting your intuition because you're blocked with baggage and not trusting your intuition because you think that you should just be open and loving, or you should just be more trusting of the universe just being like, benevolence doesn't always mean good things happen. Benevolence can also mean suffering and pain towards growth, right? And that's something that we need to realize. And so my coach was showing me this picture where it's like a circle and there's like 5 dots and it says, the amount of times my intuition led me astray. And then there's another circle and it's just full of like thousands of dots. He's like, the times I was right. And then it says, statistically, it makes sense for us to trust ourselves, when we're feeling something like that. And aside from that, I was telling you about how and why all this stuff has happened is because I made the conscious choice to get a coach, which for a long time I had an issue with coaches because of what I experienced with the conscious coaching realm and them basically playing the act that they have everything when they're spending all their money on the lifestyle and other coaches to deal with doing high ticket sales and not feeling worthy, which is fucking ridiculous. But finding someone who, like Ed Milet says, is the perfect, you're the perfect coach for who you used to be. So finding someone who I trusted, who I connected with, who's seen me from day one, and who's just had not maybe being like, oh, I see you, I want to help you, and you're a meal ticket, but like, oh, yeah, I see you, respect, and being like, oh shit, I like this, bro. And from that, being able to make this happen, being able to do the funny videos, like I have my first like semi-viral video, it's got like 300 something shares, like 500 plus likes, and it's been watched like 10,000 times or something like that, which is big for me because I had my Instagram archived for like a year plus. You know what I mean? I've never been consistent on posting. I've been posting now over 30 days, 35 days, with reels of the podcast and other stuff. But those skits was a big thing for me. So you're talking about doing funny things, right? For me, being Japanese, how many Japanese comedians you know? None. You know, samurai actors and stuff like that. Japanese, have you watched Shogun yet?
No.
It's remarkable. For one, it shows the gnarliness of how Japan used to be, but also the deep, rich honor code and respect. And so for me, it was always like, I can't just, we went from farmers to landscapers to put my dad through college to be a dentist. I can't just be a clown. I need to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
I need to ascend higher. And for me to just be a clown and be a goof is like, that's dishonorable. And so it was a big thing for me to work through with my coach and come to this space of like, how can I be positive? How can I bring joy and challenge myself to become uncomfortable and also go to that space of being naturally like goofy and funny, which I am, but in a way that still feels like I'm honoring my ancestors and my legacy forward. Yeah. Right? Because humor is also how we find relation to people, trust in people. So like, how can you build impact if no one trusts you? If you don't share your story, if you don't show who you truly are. Yeah. And so it's like, how am I trying to, like, I got all this podcast of serious stuff on like my ground layer of the Insta and the YouTube and all these things. And it's like, and then these speckles of like ridiculousness.
It has to be
that
there,
feels
man.
good.
It has to.
It feels good.
That willingness to look silly.
And we get silly.
We can get silly.
Bro.
Yeah.
Remember that time? What was the dick doctor? That's a whole other story. I
still tell that story. But that kind of laughter, man. Yeah. That gut level, like
we were rolling.
Oh my god, dude. That was hilarious.
Good. Yeah.
I was like, what is he trying to... Biology? Oh, shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a huge one. That's a huge growth urge for me, man. Just to be silly.
Yeah.
And with my kids, too, to play with them, to fool around, like... my son's playing basketball, and, like, I'm learning to support him, but not be over, like, because, he has his own journey with it. He has to learn how to do his own thing and play his own game. Yeah. So it's like not making it work, but making it fun for him. Like making that joyous and making it like, because when I'm able to be silly, like dancing and all that stuff, then I find it a lot easier to access those points with them.
You're right.
But if I'm walking around like with stick up, like it didn't, right. It's hard to reference that with them because then it's not real. They feel it. Like, oh no, it's not authentic.
It's funny that I am loved. By the way, I just want to say, usually when we're having these conversations, it's like talking about things and blah, blah, blah. I have had so many like deep epiphanies when we've been having these conversations. It's been amazing. No, I love like you've been bringing up stuff and it's just like, oh shit, that makes so much sense. And a lot of it's father stuff. A lot of it's like all that. So maybe that's why too. But how interesting is it that once you make yourself known as that guy who has the stick up the ass, that's the dominant and the blah, 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 you always have to uphold it. Otherwise it loses its like,
you're gripping.
You're gripping.
You're gripping like, all the time, though.
And in the end of the day, that's also a form of love too, because you're trying to like the only reason why the person's doing that is to be like, hey, this is the way that the world's tough. The world's this. The world's that. You got to be able to take it. You got to be able to. So fucking deal with it. I'm gonna be this guy to mold you into that because I love you. At the end of the day, I'm just too afraid to admit it and show it in the ways that are healthy.
Right.
Right. But then once you are that person, you can't let it down because then it loses its fucking quote unquote power or dominance factor, which is like, how sad for those men in the past to have to essentially castrate themselves from their emotions in order to do what they thought would be the one way that they could protect the ones that they loved.
Bro, and yet because my dad approached that the way he did, it allows me to be where I am today. It's all
so
connected.
Nuts.
It's all connected. Yeah. It's all connected. Polarities, right?
Yeah.
I had to know that pain to know this love.
And how much compassion you can have for the individual who did that. Because it's like, damn, you were not feeling
that's
a lot.
My pops. Huh?
Yeah.
Like, that's, like that's.
And what was his pops dealing with? Like, what about their tears? What about their
What
heartbreak?
about if you take it far
You
back?
know?
What's about their pops?
You know what I'm saying? Like
Before even.
yeah,
You know,
my great grandfather was adopted, treated like shit for himself. Like we don't even know his story.
And that just keeps being passed on and on and
Yeah.
on and on. And my dad did what he did, and I'm choosing not to do that.
Yeah,
And that's
agreed.
cool.
Agreed.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that he was. And this is the part where self-forgiveness comes in for me, because at some, as a kid, when you're going through it, I will blame myself. Like my dad is hitting me because I did something wrong, or because
my
I'm
fault.
not good enough, and all those. But it's like when I could move to that place of self-forgiveness and appreciate his journey,
Yeah. Yeah.
and where he came from,
Yeah.
and where he got us, and where my kids are going, and what they're going to be able to do if they choose to have kids, or whatever.
Right.
But their whole trajectory is going to be completely different, and I'm
Entirely.
grateful for that. And that's all I could say. Thank you, Pops. I love you. Thank you for showing me what you did. Showing me what you needed to be shown, teaching me what needed to be taught. Moving on to what's next for them, and for myself, and my dad, who I'm grateful he's still here, and I love him, and and I could say that for the first time and actually fucking feel it in my heart, bro.
It's a wild thing, man. It's a beautiful thing. It's so amazing how psychedelic this life is, in the sense that you can call back all of the stuff that you've experienced, of the turmoil and the fucking heartbreak and there's the pain, and in real time process that with the individual that is obviously very different, who you're literally having compassion for in so many ways. He's showing up for your grandkids differently. He's aged and is weaker and more closer to death, right?
Last time I saw
all
him,
these
man,
things.
yeah, that hit me hard, man.
Bro, like I want to have kids now because I know that, I don't know. I'm 34, about to be 35. So I should have, quote unquote, healthily wise, should have kids sooner than later. But for me, I want to have kids while my parents are here. While my parents are still good. Like my mom's, beautiful and she dyes her hair. But, we were just talking about it the other week, and she's like, yeah, like if I didn't dye my hair, it'd be like totally white. My dad's hair is like completely white now, and he's had a stroke and aneurysm. Like, there's just such a richness about being able to come to that space of love and forgiveness and just be grateful for what is, and recognize throughout all the pain that we experience through also our perception of being kids and just being very new on this earth, at least in this lifetime, to be like, wow, even though I was feeling all this pain and this hurt and you caused all this stuff, like where we're at now, I'm going to choose to love you while we're here, because I know that it's not going to be for quote unquote long.
Yeah,
it's not going to be forever.
It's the power of the fungi,
right?
Hey,
which is the oldest ancestor, truly.
Oh my God, man!
Yeah.
They, those niños, they opened up portals of healing I didn't know were possible, man. And I'm so grateful for the medicines, the plant medicines. I'm grateful for Miguel, Fabian, for all the space holders that do it in a good way. I'm very careful who I sit with.
Yes.
Environment is very important to me, and because I go there, man. Like if we're gonna go, we're gonna go, and they hold such a safe space that I can go to those places of, like you said, to look at something and alchemize it in the moment into something else. Yeah, literally. Yeah. In that moment, and be like, and then coming out a journey and then applying that learning to my relationships with my parents and all that. It's priceless, man.
It is.
That's why I'm so grateful I found the medicines, and when I need them, they find me. That's the way kind of we have this agreement. It's like when it's necessary, guess what's coming up? There's a ceremony taking place. Yeah. And if it lines up, it lines up. And
that's a beautiful thing, because it's a beautiful space to listen in that space, because a lot of people, they go because it's like, everyone's doing it. Unfortunately, my first Aya ceremony, I only did it because everyone was doing it and got offered to me. And I was like, I guess I should, even though I had stopped, because I was like deep in the medicine work for a certain amount of years. And I had stopped, and I was like, okay, and that experience was like, grandmother shaking me, like Aya shaking me, being like, do you want to leave? Or do you want to like actually go out and do the work? Like, do you want to show? Like, what's happening? Why are you here? Yeah. It was like, okay. And they'd come in my ears. I'm just like sitting up the whole time, just breathing, doing my like deep breaths, and they're like, "You're doing so great." And the meanwhile, I'm literally like fighting to stay in body.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you want to check out or what? What's going on?
Are we doing
because
this? Or are we
yeah,
not?
like,
yeah.
and that's what led to a whole. And then my last ceremony was in Costa Rica, and that was just like what I love about grandmother Aya medicine is that you don't know what you're going to get with psilocybin, with LSD, with all these different, even San Pedro and certain other ones. I kind of know what I'm going into. I don't know what's happening with Aya.
No, grandmother's different.
Bro, I have no. If it's a 3-night sit, every single night will most likely be different. Oh yeah, that's the one thing that I can be sure of.
Oh, for sure, man. Yeah.
Like one night I'll be just joyous and like just loving it, and the other night I'll just be you can go all the ways, all the ways.
Remember, I was coming out of a Wachuma ceremony, and it was one of the most beautiful ceremonies I've had. I mean, I was working with the medicine. It was talking. I mean, it was just like even Miguel was like, "Bro, like you were like," I'm like, "Yeah, we were like in this place." And I checked my phone, a bunch of mixed texts and calls from my brother. I'm like, "Oh, this can't be good, bro." Call him back. It's like, "Hey, have you talked to mom?" I'm like, "Nah, bro." He's like, "What's up?" He's like, "Oh, she got diagnosed with colon cancer."
Oh no.
I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah." And I was just like floored, bro. I'm like, "What?" But I was just coming out of a ceremony, and then this energy, like this presence came in me and be like, "Okay, it's time to walk her home." I'm like, "What?" Like, "It's time to walk her home." So I called my mom, like, "Mom, what's up?" She's like, "Yeah, they found this and that." And she has county Medi-Cal, so everything's 2 weeks out,
Yeah.
So they found it, but it was 2 weeks before they could test how far it was. And it wasn't a question of how far, of if she had it. It was like what stage.
Right.
And then after that, it would be 2 weeks for to start the whatever she was going to do, right? So it was a month.
Yeah.
So coming out of that ceremony, I was like, "Okay, time to walk her home." I said, "Okay." So everything that ceremony, I applied to my situation with my mom. We had some conversations, bro, because in my mind, it was not if, it was how much and how long she was going to be here.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was in a place of like, okay, so whatever she needs, I'm going to provide for her.
Yeah.
Emotionally, physically, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, she knows about my sexual abuse because it happened to my babysitters. And she would walk me there every day to the babysitters. And when I told her, like, she blamed herself a lot, man. And as we were having these conversations, as we're getting ready to find out what, what level of colon cancer it is, she starts asking me questions about what happened. Like, she wanted details.
Oof.
And I had to come from that place of that, from that ceremony where I felt like really be like, okay, she wants details, I'll give her details.
Yeah.
So long story short, we had some talks, man. Like, it got deep. My dad and like all of us.
Yeah.
It was just, my brother was in Colorado, but it was just 3 of us really got deep into it. So she goes in 2 weeks later, has her, tests to find out how far it is along. We have more conversations. But during all this, in my mind, I buried her multiple times. Like, I allowed myself to go there.
Yeah.
Like in my meditations and my runs, I would be in ceremony. I would have, my drum, and I would be sending her off in a good way. Yeah. Like, in my mind, she was gone.
Yeah.
Long story short, and then the results come back negative, bro.
Oh, it's amazing.
Nothing.
Wow.
After being like completely sure that it wasn't, because she was losing weight. I mean, she looked really bad. Like, I could see her disappearing in front of me. Like,
wow.
They're like, "Oh no, we need to get this done." That's why 2 weeks was fast for them.
Yeah.
Like 2 weeks. It normally takes a month out. 2 weeks was like, let's get her in the books, and then results 2 weeks later. Like, she came back negative.
Wow, it's amazing.
And I just sat back, like, you just wonder, was it the approach?
Yeah.
Was it me willing to let her go in my heart and have these closing ceremonies with her over and over and over again, bro, to the point where it felt so real.
Yeah.
That was putting her in the ground every time.
Yeah.
And thanking her and blessing her and thanking her and blessing her and thanking her and giving her having all the information she needed to go in peace.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just interesting that in engaging in that way with her
Yeah.
from that medicine journey,
Yeah.
from that simple phrase, okay, it's time to walk her home,
Yeah.
you know? And then comes the other side, because we've talked. Things are said and done, and she's still here. So we've had these in-depth talks
Right.
where things are put out, and now we got to see each other with that information in us that, you know, she wanted to know,
Yeah.
that she thought what she was going to take with her.
Yeah.
But now she's still here. And that just took her to a whole different level. You know?
You know, I've said this, I mean, the grief topic comes up a lot in this podcast because I think that it's really important medicine.
Yeah.
I think that when I think about the pandemic of humanity right now has not been COVID. It's not just victimhood. It's not just all these things. It's like, it's really the detachment to grief, which then creates the lack of humility, which then creates then gratitude, right?
Yeah.
And then the resentment and all these things, which then, you know, leads itself to victimhood or making that very much an easy choice. And what I always say is that at the end of the day, the real life is when shit hits the fan like this. When shit hits the fan, there's all the veils, everyone's aspirations towards, oh, I want to be this, or I want to be known as this or that is important, or this or that. It's like, all of it drops. All of it drops. It's like, oh shit, something's happening with mom. Something's happening with my brother. Something's happening with my sister. Blah, blah, blah. Drop everything. Go now. All of a sudden, it's of supreme importance.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh shit, I haven't been doing the thing. Like the gateway has not been open to have these talks. The gateway has not been open to have this richness of experience with each other.
Right.
And fuck. Okay, I gotta be there. I gotta have that because fuck, I'm gonna have regrets. I'm gonna have all this stuff. It's like, why are we creating that story?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying why, like, oh, everyone else is stupid. No, it's like it's built into the fabric of our society. And that's one of the things that, if there's anything that I can help to shift and move, and you're moving it within your family and how you're choosing to raise your kids, it's for us to have that vulnerability and that connection and that love that we're leaving it all on the table all the time. All the time.
Yeah.
Because for some of us, for some of our parents and, you know, family members, like, come from different generations, or even people in this generation who are maybe more closed off, whatever it is, like, these types of things lead to the ability to have this type of connection where it's just like, okay, there's no time for me to talk, like, to be shrouded in the bullshit.
Right.
There's no time for me to try to act in this bullshit narrative because it's getting actually real. But the point is that it's always available. We're just not choosing it. So why not choose it?
I don't know, man. That's yeah.
And I feel like the reason is because of all the stuff that's going on in society and stuff. But I wonder how much more joyous, how much more rich, how much less of consistent. You remember we talked about the person who ends up pushing the people away because they're too away to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And then that creates drama here, creates drama there. How much of the drama and everything that's happening in the world is all just stemming from us just not truly, really being real with everything, not being attached to the grief, so that we have that humility and that connection and that gratitude and all that stuff, and pushing people away because we're like, oh, I don't want to feel the pain. You know, how can we get more accustomed to feeling specific types of pain and leaning into them as a point of recognizing that it is something that allows a technology that allows for us to truly be real with each other, and that it's something healthy. How can we cultivate that into something that's weaved within the fabric of society? Again, because it has been before.
It has been before.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we gather around fires, right? That's
You
where
know?
we used to do handle business.
Talk
It's
story.
Like talk story. Talk
Tattoo
story.
each other.
Yeah, that's where we used to do the difficult conversations,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
And do the medicine work. Do it all.
Do it all around the
Yeah.
fire, man.
Yeah.
And I think that's how do you say it? For me, like, that's the fire that burns inside of me, man. It's that it's like it's why not now? If I'm gonna end up doing it anyways, why not just do it now? Like, if I'm gonna have to move through that piece of it, move through it now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we talk about the physical comforts of life and everything we have, but then there's that also that spiritual and that emotional comfort.
Yeah.
You know, like it's comfortable to be depressed, man. I could tell you what depression tastes like, looks like, feels like. I know how to navigate depression. I know how to be in that. Right? But then the other side of that is like, okay, well, if you don't want to feel that comfort of being like that, it's weird. Like, it's it's bad, but it's comfortable bad.
Right.
But at least I know it.
Yeah.
Right. But this happy thing, this joyous thing.
Yeah.
This thing that it's cultivated, it needs to be nurtured, it needs to be tended to.
Yeah.
And it needs through whatever little actions that it needs to be, you know, until the fire starts burning.
Yeah.
That right there, that's uncomfortable too.
It's similar to being on the treadmill, right? Or running. It's similar to like once you're on that treadmill, like, you know, to cultivate positivity or happiness and gratitude and all this stuff. It's like it's not like there's a stopping.
No, you
right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like the plant dies. The sun. It's like you have to keep cultivating the thing.
Yeah.
Right. As opposed to looking at dead soil and being like, oh, well, it's all dead.
And even if we think we're not cultivating, we still are.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe it's rot or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because the fire's still burning. It's just a very low.
Right.
Maybe just embers.
Yeah.
True. You know, what does it take to take those embers into a whole flame?
It's like, oh, it's cold, right? If we're talking about that analogy, the embers. Oh, it's cold. It's like, yeah, let's tend to the fire.
Let's tend to the fire, man. And I mean, that's where I've landed after out of everything that I've been through, and like at 47 years old, like to be in a place of peace, it takes attending to.
Yeah.
It doesn't just happen.
Never.
It doesn't, and it's not just given.
Yeah. Maintenance is a thing.
It's a thing.
Yeah. Just like cleaning the house.
Receptivity is a thing too.
Yeah.
You have to be open to receiving.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
Because so many times, like I remember, like I would wish for everybody to receive, but when it came to me, it's like, oh no, I can't take that.
Right. Which is this savior, supreme, altruist archetype that is just the self-saboteur. And it also is like, who are you to like keep giving and giving? How is not having appropriate boundaries, and this goes in all directions. This goes in the place of being too giving. This also goes in the place of enabling too much. How is that not love, but actually negligence and violence to not have appropriate boundaries? And how does that proliferate more harm and pain into the world?
True.
It's a really interesting thing because it's like, oh no, this is the problem with a lot of the way that people are thinking today is like, oh, I was doing it out of good, or I was doing it out of, you know, what seems to be good, like all these agendas that are out right now that are like social agendas or stuff, which come from like somewhat of a good and altruistic vein, but are also caught up in this space of saviorhood, right? There's a very thin line between caring for people and trying to save them and disempower them from their own choice of their own choosing, right? And that's a high level thing that a lot of people don't understand, but that's all there. And how is not having appropriate boundaries for people doing crimes or doing or homeless stuff, like not to say that there isn't room for compassion and helping people. Absolutely there is. And yet, just like with children, you know, if people are just letting their kids tantrum and just like neglecting them and being like, oh, well, I don't want to cause them any type of pain whatsoever, so I'm just going to let them be in this space where they're just craving boundaries, but I'm not going to give it to them. How is that negligence and violence in a way? So I think that all of that there goes in so many directions. And that's, once again, you know, whether it's pain for finding the gratitude and the humility and the grief, or pain towards being able to love the children and allow for them to live that experience, you know, and suffer in the ways and have their free will, like all of that's there, you know? And it's a lot to hold. But once again, that's how I always correlate it with the warrior, because it's that unseen warrior. It's like the part of the person, of the, you know, in your case, the father, that chooses to do all these hard things. You don't see how buff the fucking spirit is, you know?
No.
You don't see how tatted the spirit is. And sometimes the strength and the courage and the warrior aspect of that is not just ferocious. It's I'm going to hold it together in the midst of feeling so much, you know, sorrow and pain that I can't protect the ones I love in all the ways.
Yeah, man. That's real right there, man. I mean, one of the things I'm so grateful for is like this new, and it just happened organically. There's this 5-second pause with my kids that happens now when things happen. Like there's this space in between from what they say to what I'm going to say, or what's happening to how I'm going to respond. And it's like 80-20 now. Like sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. But there's that breath now that I can like, I see it happening, and I could like, part of me pulls back and is like, oh, like you could choose this and that, and I could see it all playing out. Like either way, I could see it playing out, and I could, engage back in and be like, okay, let me choose this way. To me, that's the spiritual muscle, man. That ability to be in it and to be able to kind of pull back and be like, all right, I can go either way. Like if I say this or if I do this, and then be able to get back in and like not choose that.
Yeah. 1,000% agreed.
You know?
To have the humility, to have the restraint, to have the self-awareness, to, for one, recognize that you have that choice.
Oh, man, that's
2,
beautiful.
To step away from it in the moment, to regulate the self.
It's so beautiful, man.
You know?
Yeah.
And then to also have that 5D oversight to be like, okay, well, this can go in this, or this can go in which one actually is the most beneficial? What's the most optimal? And I'm choosing this out of love and choosing to literally do the best so that I can cultivate an experience. Not manipulate, but cultivate an experience for the one that I love, that allows for them to get the life lesson, that allows for them to be in the place of sovereignty where they're recognizing the responsibility of all their, like, it's so fucking in-depth.
In-depth.
It takes a certain,
I mean,
you know.
And even like to be happy for myself, to give that to myself, to give myself that grace and space, man.
Yeah.
Like after you've been such a reactor for so long,
right?
When that kicks in, it's such a like, I don't know, like a cold shower, man. Just it's so nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's not like you have to think about it. Now it just happens. Like you're like, oh,
right.
Oh shit, look at that. Or you just see things differently. You're like, oh, okay, like this and that. Okay, let me get back in there and do it, you know?
I love that you said that.
You know what I mean?
I wrote about it in the first edition of the book. Is that like the first one, awareness of choice.
Yeah.
Step 2 is like the power of your choice and why. And the third is like putting it into practice. Understanding why why we're reactors, right? Because like the subconscious, we're 95% subconscious, you know, during our lives. And like we will have a positive chemical correlating like experience when we do something or react in a way that we've experienced in the past from our childhood, even if it's destructive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And in the beginning, it takes us being very conscious of the fact that we do have that split second to step away and that it becomes easier over time.
It does, man.
And it becomes second nature over time to the point where we be like, okay, no, I'm not just going to feel this endorphin rush and be like, oh, get all mad and everything. I'm going to be like, okay, actually, that's not what I want to do for all these reasons. And in the moment, I'm going to, all right. And then learning how to emotionally regulate. There's so, like, I get it. It's so much work.
It's so delicious. Delicious is the best word. It's just 100%. Such a graceful feeling to be able to do that, man.
Yeah.
To just be able to pull back, even with myself, when I'm dealing with myself sometimes, you know, when I'm like being I'm very hypercritical, and when I can pull back and watch myself doing what I'm doing to myself and be like, really?
Yeah.
You gonna do that one again?
Yeah.
Like we doing that one?
Right. Yeah.
Really?
Past that.
That's an oldie.
Oh, yeah.
That's A-track.
Yeah.
We really doing that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's like, okay, stay there as long as you want, bro.
Yeah. Until you're ready to stop.
Until you're ready to stop.
You know?
And it's like, okay. And then sometimes like, you ready for that? I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, let's do that then.
Yeah. Was talking with one of my last guests, Yaya, you know, the psychotherapist, about it, and how victimhood is actually kind of like the precursor towards coming into the space of sovereignty and personal accountability and responsibility.
Yeah, man.
And it's so important. And sometimes we still need to dip into it and just be like, oh, woe is me. Like, oh, everything's been happening to me. Like, for whatever we're spirit soul. Like we want to experience all the spectrum of emotions.
Yeah.
And yet what we allow for at the end of the day, we recognize after being so foolish after so many times, like, okay, I'm feeling this way. I know what this will lead to. I know what it will lead to for me to continue this narrative that I'm playing in. Okay, let me feel it. Let me sit with it. And yet I can then have a state change and switch out of it and choose something different.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And something that I just posted about, I think it was yesterday, and something that's been really coming up for me lately with having the accountability of having my coach in my corner, having a therapist, you know, doing everything that I'm doing, is recognizing that some days and sometimes like stuff can throw me sideways. And for a lot of people, and for me, at least in the past, I feel like it's shifting now. That would be the thing to make me be like, all right, I'm not feeling it today. I'm not doing it. Mm-hmm. Right? Because I got to be in a certain space. but that's why you do the intentional things to change the state.
Oh man,
You
you're
know?
speaking. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
shit,
I mean,
man.
you're doing it. You're running. You're doing all these things, like waking up at 3 a.m. Like, there's certain things you do. Like, even in the midday, like, I'm going to take a bath. I'm going to rinse in some cold water. I'm going to do whatever I need to do. I'm going to take a walk. Do whatever. I'm taking whatever it is so that I can intentionally make that state change. Not be like, well, the day's ruined.
Absolutely.
Boo-hoo.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's where the those intuitive hits come in, man, because like your body will tell you what it needs. Like, oh, go do this, go do that. Like, nah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've literally had to learn to like, I'll go into those spaces where I'm sitting on the couch. I'm like, oh, God. Like, I want to sit here. And then like, I've literally talked to myself, like, we don't do that no more, bro.
Yeah.
We don't wait anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We just get up and do it.
Yeah.
Go clean that bathroom, bro.
Yeah.
Or go do that thing. Like,
Yeah.
it just needs to, it happens.
Yeah.
And I watch myself
Right.
get up
Yeah.
and go do it, and there's resistance, but I'm still doing it. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And by the end, I was like, oh, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Like it was just a temporary thing. Like it passed, you know?
Bro.
But before I would get stuck in those loops where it'd be like 1 hour turns to 2 hours,
Right.
3 hours.
Right.
Okay, 4 hours, then
Yeah.
days, fucking months.
Yep.
And then I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
All this time, like,
Yeah.
wasted. Was it wasted? I don't know. It's perspective. But yeah, like not doing the thing.
Not doing the thing.
You know?
Yeah.
Because of overanalyzing. Some people could say that's ADHD, paralysis, whatever it is. Point is that at the end of the day, the choice to choose to get out of the state, get out of the way, similar to what we're talking about with, choosing to, come to this different state of communicating with ourselves and with our children, like stepping out of it and being like, okay, wait, I don't have to do that, right? And being in that state, for me, it's like writing my book or, working on some stuff that I need to work on that's towards, everything that I'm doing that's, I got to be optimistic, I got to be hopeful because right now it's not generating revenue. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And yet I have to be hopeful and believe in myself more than anyone to continue doing it and working towards this goal to be like, I am purposeful here. And yet, if I'm not feeling that way, I'm like shrunken in, caved in. And it's like, okay, so do I stay there? Do I wait for it to change? No.
Or do I change it?
Yeah, do I change? Do I do the things to change to feel that way?
Yeah.
And I think one of the narratives that I would have is like, well, I don't have time to do that. I got to just force it out. And then you sit there, or I would sit there being in the space of like, oh, it's not working. Oh, I don't feel. It's like, you're wasting time. I do more in a potent 10 minutes than I would in an unpotent 50 minutes an hour, right? Yeah. So if I need to take 50 minutes in order to get myself right so that I can just put freaking like, boom, juice on the paper in 10 minutes, that's better than me waiting around for an hour not getting anything done.
Yeah.
Being in misery, So yeah, 1,000%.
Man, like parenting is the same way, man. Like quality versus quantity, man. Like I can give my son a solid 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And we good.
Right.
But this idea, I have to be with them all the time, and they have to be with me all the time, or they have to do certain things. Like, nah, man. Like it's the quality of the interaction with them. Like,
agreed.
Yeah. We can have this interaction and be good, and they go about their day. I go about my day and be good. Okay.
Yeah.
He knows I love him. He knows I got him. He could go out there and do his thing. You know,
that's so fascinating because, you could be somewhat distant and or not fully engaged for maybe an hour or something like that. Or you could have like a 10-minute, like super deep heart to heart. And which one is actually more powerful? Which one's more memorable? Which one leaves the child more fulfilled and feeling loved? Right?
Yeah.
It's really, it's a great point. I love how it's just all so analogous to everything, with like our personal experience with children, everything. Like once again, it's full circle,
Well, how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah,
man, that's real.
Yeah,
Bro,
I mean, we've been going for what I think almost like maybe 3, maybe a little over 3.
Oh my, well, dang!
I see. Once again, it's a portal.
Yeah, man.
And I don't know about you, my blood sugar's getting a little low, so we get some grub in.
Yeah.
But what I want to say is that thank you for coming on here, for sharing your story, for like just having such a great conversation and dialogue. Like I've just been having the time of my life. And we can always make, a part 2, a part 3, and all these things.
Absolutely,
and
man.
I look forward to reconvening with you more, But I just want to say thank you for really being vulnerable and sharing your heart, because the amount of impact that we're able to have, once again, without really, showing ourselves and who we are in the world is nil, And there's too many of the fake gurus, like I did on the skit that I did, you know what I mean? And so I want to honor you and commend you for not only coming on here, but really bearing it all and really being vulnerable so that you can do it for your children, for your grandchildren, for your legacy to come, and for like the people of the world, so that we can live in a better space, and for you, and I'm grateful to be able to sit across the table from you and get to share. So I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man. Is there a way that you would like to close it out with ending words? Is there something is there a way you want people to be able to find you? Like you can tell the camera if you want.
Man,
you can tell me.
I what's coming forward is just like, we ask, how do we honor those that came before us? And the best way, for me, the best way has been just to be real with it, man. Like,
yeah.
It's okay to feel, man. It's okay to feel the pain, to feel everything. Just feel. Like, feel it. Just the feel thing, man. And yeah, man, I don't know, man. I'm just grateful for this opportunity. And there's so much, man. But I'm grateful. And thank you for having me and for this conversation and reflecting back to me so many things and that I will take with me.
So many parallels, yeah.
And it's so good to see you shine, bro.
Likewise, brother.
So good to see you shine. And this is beautiful, man. I walked into your space. I'm like, damn, this feels
Thanks
good.
for blessing it up, bro. Thanks for blessing it up. You know
this
what I'm
is the dojo.
For real. Hey, we can roll too. We got to. I know. That's true.
September is the year when I can get back to you, man. I know, man.
It's a while. Well, if you ever want to do like really light drills too, let me know.
Well, man, I miss it.
How can people find you?
Just Instagram, Hugo Chacon, X13. I mean, I don't post.
I'll put it in the description.
Yeah, I don't post much, but I post things here and there that resonate with me, and just here to uplift and do what I can, man. Do my part the best I can. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Gracias.
This has been the Magnanimous Collective with Hugo Chacon. Till next time, stay safe, hug your loved ones, love them.
Yes.
It's all happening now.
Listo. So good. 3 hours? Damn.